So, can you tell me?
Hey guys, so welcome to this new episode. Right now, I just came across this video of Senator Mark Kelly, and this has been a very, very impressive video that I wanted to share. Why? Because, this is a completely different spin to this whole question and, issue about like who won the 2020 election. Like every time we have a nominee before Congress, before the Senate, for a hearing, confirmation hearing, we normally get and we see Democrats asking the same question. You're like, who won the 2020 election? Of course, this is important. You want to challenge these people to know that they have independence, that they have their own voice, that they can process objective reality. But what I would say is the problem is that we seldom get anywhere when it comes to that question, because people will normally answer. We saw Pam Bondi do it. We've seen Kash Patel, many other people, I believe Pete Hegseth, and now we have all these nominees, different ones that are showing up for different positions. Now we have this guy named Jay Clayton, who is right now applying for a job. He wants to be a director of national intelligence, and he just can't answer basic questions. But this particular one who won the 2020 election, it turned into this whole game with many different senators in terms of I'm just not going to play these games. This is a theatrics. And that was his answer consistently. This is what I'm doing. I'm not going to play this game. Yeah, we know Joe Biden was certified, the winner, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to play this game answering and going back and forth with you guys. So he was very reluctant to actually answer. But now, I came across Mark Kelly, and this was a completely different spin. So let's listen to that questioning, that line of questioning, which was completely different. I had never heard any of the Democrats since Donald Trump came back, to office. They have interviewed a bunch of people in the Senate, of course, a bunch of different nominees. And I had never heard anyone presented this way, even though they're saying kind of the same thing. Hey, you need to have independence. You need to have your own voice. At some point, you have to say no. But this just sounded differently. The way that he handled it was really good. So let's, have a listen, and we'll be right back.
So, can you tell me why Joe Biden was certified as the winner of the 2020 election?
I'm going back to my constitutional law here, but I don't want to continue to have a debate about this, but I believe he had the most electoral votes.
So he won the election.
He followed our process, had the most electoral votes, was declared the winner, and
who has the most electoral?
It's kind of ridiculous. These people have to turn into a pretzel to try to somehow justify that, Biden magically, by some miracle, he was declared the winner, but he didn't win, right? Of course, it was stolen, so that's why I'm never going to say, yes, he won, even though, it's just stupid. You're at the same time saying that he was declared the winner, which is pretty much the same thing, right? But anyway.
Votes, is it the person that wins or the person that loses?
I think that's your characterization.
This was also a good question. Check this.
Electoral votes, is it and who has the most electoral votes? Is it the person that wins or the person that loses?
I think that's your characterization. I'm not going to continue.
The reason why we struggle with this, and I think it's especially important in the job you're nominated for, is because it seems that folks who are nominated for these positions just fundamentally refuse to disagree with something the president says. And the problem I have with this is he isn't in the room today. You're going to be in a room with him many times. And at times, you should have a difference of opinion. And if you can't disagree with him when he's not in the room, are you going to be able to disagree with him when you're sitting across from him in the Oval Office or the Situation Room? That folks who are nominated for these positions just fundamentally refuse to disagree with something the president says. And the problem I have with this is he isn't in the room today. You're going to be in a room with him many times. And at times, you should have a difference of opinion. And if you can't disagree with him when he's not in the room, are you going to be able to disagree with him when you're sitting across from him in the Oval Office or the Situation Room?
Well, so that's a reality, and I thought this was a different spin. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I have seen so many Democrats just engaging in the same debate, which is it's important. Don't take me wrong here. I'm not trying to criticize Democrats for asking the question. You want to know if they have independence. You want to know if they are there to maybe just hurt their leader a little bit. Because that Donald Trump is, of course, going to be mad, and he may actually just withdraw the nomination if they dare to say that he lost the election fair and square, of course. So that's why they play all these word games and just turn, I don't know, just bend themselves into a pretzel. But the thing is that it's ridiculous. So hearing now Mark Kelly, turn this into a completely different debate and discussion, like, hey, I think it matters. Why? Because he's pretty much saying, hey, this doesn't matter if you're, I don't know, blue or red, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you're an independent. You want to have people who can just say no. You want to have people with independence that want to do the right thing regardless of party. You don't want to have a president with complete unchecked power. This is what we see in different, like autocrat countries. You see this in North Korea. You see it in Russia. You see it in Venezuela. You saw it with what's happening down there with Maduro and Chavez. You see it in Cuba, like we say in Puerto Rico. You saw it with the whole Castro family, which once they rose to power, they promised they were going to hold elections right away. Yeah, well, as soon as we throw this government, we overthrow the government. You'll see we're going to hold elections. You'll see. It never happened. And I don't know like how long it took in Cuba, but it probably was more than 40 years, 40 maybe, I don't know, like maybe even 50 years to have like, I don't know, just some form of election, but not even a completely free and fair election. Because if you ask Cubans right now, they'll tell you that the nominees that they have for the elections are people that the Castro family will approve. And at the end of the day, they still control the whole country in a way. So it's just not what you expect to have in obviously in a democracy, in a country where you value freedom and so on. So right now we're transitioning. What's happening here is just kind of like very crazy. And I have another very impactful video that has gone viral right now since Donald Trump's address to the nation last Thursday. Donald Trump, he's, I don't know why. Of course we know why, but he just had this breaking news. I have to tell the country that we just found proof of like China's, interference in the 2020 election. And we know that we found like 250,000 people supposedly registered to vote that were illegals or undocumented people. And it's just kind of like the same old lies, just repackaged. There's like it's repackaged and just sold to the same people that will buy it once again. Same product, they're gonna buy it. But these are the same conspiracies and narratives that have been debunked time and time again since 2020. But this is the thing: Donald Trump appointed this guy to be one of his, like official and the main guy when it comes to declassifying documents. This guy is supposed to be leading this whole document declassification process, and he's very knowledgeable of the whole thing and the fraud and so on. So anyway, this guy was like questioned by a reporter from MS Now, and they asked him if he thought that they had found, like any evidence of like fraud, because Donald Trump is offering this message. He's like just giving this speech and talking about all these things that they found supposedly, right? And this guy's answer, I don't think, pleased Trump in any way. I don't think Donald Trump was going to be happy with this answer. And this is Trump's guy, okay? This is Trump, principal, official, electoral guy who was in charge or is in charge right now of doing investigations and declassifying documents. So this is just not your average Joe, on YouTube or some, low level asshole, which you think he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, okay? Because obviously we have all these MAGA, Trump followers always repeating whatever they hear, whatever they see on TikTok or something. But this is a guy who is supposed to know what he's doing, right? He's directly declassifying the intel that, according to Caroline Levitt, it's actually allowing Donald Trump to just share the new reality that's, before our eyes. The reality that China meddled, that somehow they apparently may have hacked, the machines and a bunch of shit. But anyway, let's listen to the answer and we'll be right back, because this was actually a very good video. So let me see if I have it here. Yes, here it is. Let me just hit play, just a second, it's loading.
Donald Trump ha afirmado repetidamente que ganó las elecciones de 2020.
Okay, I brought this one in Spanish, so my bad. Let me bring the English version because I had to translate this so that we could use it here. So I could use it on my Spanish channel. But let me bring it here. I have it on my hard drive, so it'll be just a second, and I'm gonna drop it here for you guys. Okay, so I'll tell you this: I know Donald Trump is not happy with this this answer. Check it out.
Donald Trump ha afirmado repetidamente que ganó.
I just brought the same video. Sorry, guys, I'm having a glitch here. Let me see here.
Donald Trump ha afirmado.
Man, just a second. Well, so I'm having a problem trying to play it for some reason. Anyway, this guy's name is John Solomon, and he was literally saying that he has seen zero evidence. Let me see if I can just switch to the browser, because I know I posted it, on my Facebook page. So I'll just share my browser from Facebook, and that way you can still listen to the guy actually answering and the question, because it was kind of like it wasn't very long, but it was
Mr. James, thanks so much for being here.
Okay. Okay, here I found it, and now let me just share the browser screen here. Let me bring it here. Okay. That's not it, but let me refresh here. Okay, here I found it. But I want to share the screen before I can actually play it. So here it is. Sorry guys, this is live. This is things that happen sometimes when you're live. So, okay, here it is. Let me just make it a little bit bigger so at least you can see it. And
de la Casa Blanca que lo ayudó. Donald.
It's still coming up in Spanish. So anyway, the thing is that this guy is saying, what this guy is saying, I'm just going to tell you. So this guy, this MS Now person is saying like, hey, so this was going on. Donald Trump already claimed that all these things happened with China, interfering with the 2020 elections and many other claims. And then this guy, John Solomon, he is just passing by or something. So he's going to interview, and he asked them, he's like, hey, have you guys found any evidence right now? Donald Trump is claiming this. He just said it on, his message. And John Solomon said, literally, he said, hey, what I can tell you is this. When it comes to intelligence, we have not seen, like a single shred of evidence that would just establish the fact that any interference happened to change any votes in any meaningful way in the 2020 or 2022 or even 24 elections. In none of these elections we have, he said, I have seen zero evidence of any foreign nation interference that could alter any of the results or even to alter any vote whatsoever. So this is Donald Trump's, top guy. And man, that video is good, and I'm still kind of disappointed that haven't been able to find it here. Let me see if I also shared a video of Brian Tyler Cohen just a second ago on his Spanish channel. And I may have it in English, but I think I saw in that video, I just saw the John Solomon video. But let me see if it's on the video that I just shared, or if it's a separate video that we're working with, just because I helped Brian Tyler Cohen translate to Spanish, like his videos so we can share them on his Spanish channel. So John Solomon, okay. Let me go to Brian's videos here. Anyway, that was completely unexpected. Why? Because Donald Trump just made this whole speech. He gave us this whole speech on Thursday to just lay out the foundation. He's laying out the foundation so that he can try to interfere with the 2026 elections. That's all there is to it. Donald Trump knows that Republicans are in for a big surprise in November, and he just can't, let it be. He just doesn't want to win fair and square. He knows he has to redraw the maps mid census, cycle. He knows that he has to, suppress the voting rights, suppress voting by mail, because he claims that it's so bad and it's always completely full of fraud and so on. But he uses it all the time. One of the last elections he voted for in Florida, he just voted by mail, right? So it's convenient when he uses it, but anytime anyone else is using it, especially if it's in blue states, then it's completely fraudulent and it's not something that you can trust. But he has been able to trust it a lot, and he has been able to use it and benefit from it. And then, now they're trying to push the SAVE Act, which is going to disenfranchise literally millions of women. I was discussing this with a couple of, people, close relatives today, and then some friends. The fact that, this is it's just going to be a burden on a lot of women that use, their husband's last name. And then the thing is why are you so afraid of allowing people to use an ID? If you're not for fraud, I'm like, what fraud are you talking about? You're selling me a solution. You're selling me a product. I want to see the problem. Show me the problem first. It's like even Republicans already researched this. The Heritage Foundation, they did a whole study on this. And guys, in Utah, recently there was a case in Utah. Go and check in Utah. It was they went and they literally checked in Utah, Republicans, okay? They checked over 2 million records to go and see if the person who had cast a vote was an illegal, somebody who was undocumented. You know what they found? In over 2 million votes that they checked in Utah, they found one person who was registered, who was undocumented. Out of 2 million people in Utah, one person registered, and even that person never casted a vote. So you see, the fact that these people are talking about, we have this huge list, this huge number of 200,000, 250,000 registered undocumented registered people. They tell you is we have 250,000 illegals or something like that. They're not even using the correct data. Everybody that has looked at this, has seen and has already debunked this before, because they are using all sorts of old data. And a lot of this old data, it may not even, obviously, of course, may not even be current. A lot of people that you have in some of these databases that could be 10, 15, maybe even older, years old, 10, 15 years old, or even older. The thing is that a lot of these people have changed. They have changed their situation. A lot of them may now actually be citizens, which happens. And they don't check that. So a lot of the studies that have looked into this in detail, they tell you, okay, so you're telling me that this guy was undocumented, yes, in 2003, but this guy became a citizen and now has a right to vote. So, you're using a lot of flawed data to just promote a narrative. But in all reality, this is one thing that I was telling people, this whole SAVE Act is just going to be a major problem. And they don't see it. They're taxing voting. Pretty much, because any woman that now needs, either to register or she's gonna go to vote, they want your ID to match your birth certificate, and that's not gonna match her. They want it to match maybe I don't know, like your passport to match it. So it's going to force you to do something different. You're going to have to go and get a new passport, or you're going to have to go and get, or get a passport if you don't have one. A lot of people don't have a, current passport. And I don't have a passport right now, which I don't have any plans of, traveling outside of the U.S. If anything, I'll go to Puerto Rico, but, I didn't need it when I moved from Puerto Rico here. So because, we're U.S. citizens and we don't need the passport to actually travel from and to, Puerto Rico. That was about to change. I don't know if they changed it recently, but, when I moved here 9 years ago, it wasn't a thing. And for many years, it wasn't. So that's something that's going to cost. If you need a passport, it's going to be at least $150, $160, maybe more in some cases. And then if you need a birth certificate, that's also going to be, $20, $30, $40, depending on the state. And a lot of people don't even pay attention to the news. So if you approve this SAVE Act, 2 months before the election, 3 months before, we're roughly 4 months away from the elections. And all of a sudden now, Donald Trump wants to make all these huge, overhauling changes to the whole electoral, system, so that he can have federal control of the elections. Remember, the SAVE Act this is why people are stupid. It's like, SAVE Act. This is just about why are you afraid of an ID? This is just not about an ID. This is a card, a MasterCard. But just saying, right? This is my ID, my driver license, right? So this is not about an ID. This is not about being afraid of an ID. The Constitution grants the authorization, power to run elections to the states. You may or may not like it. And look at how Donald Trump never gives up any power that the Constitution gives him, and even power that he didn't have. He's now using the Supreme Court to rule in a completely different way. We have history and we have, precedent. We have all sorts of rulings against things that Donald Trump is doing right now. But, his buddies at the Supreme Court, they want to please him too. They don't want only this new nominees to be the ones saying that that Biden was declared the winner to please him. They want to please him too, a lot. And that's why they have ruled, his way, overturning 50, 70, 100 years of precedent so that they can just please Donald Trump. But the reality is that notice how Donald Trump, not only he will never give up or allow anyone to do something taking away his power or doing something that he's supposed to do. He's never going to allow anyone to tell him what to do if he's authorized to do that, right? And at the same time, he's also taking power away from Congress because he wants to control the power of the purse. He wants to control taxing other countries, the tariffs. So taxing is it's the prerogative and something that Congress constitutionally does, not the president. That's why the Supreme Court, at least this time, the Supreme Court overturned, or at least revoked. They ruled against Donald Trump when it came to Liberation Day tariffs, which was a huge hit for him. So I knew at least since they did that, they were going to give him, they were going to rule some others in his favor. But from time to time, they'll give him, a ruling like that and squash him completely. So. But anyway, you can see how Donald Trump is always trying to grab, power and, take power away from the courts, take power away from Congress, and now taking power away from the states, and brought to you by the party of, states' rights. Remember, it used to be that Republicans were always campaigning about them being the party of states' rights. And all of a sudden now it's like the states have little to no power at all, especially when it comes to elections. Now they want to federalize elections. They want to have a national, database. And so it's not an apples to apples, comparison. It's not an equal branches, separation of powers. Not in Donald Trump's world. So that's why he's doing that. But at the same time, he's not allowing, the states to do whatever they are supposed to do based on the Constitution. So again, this is another, power grab. He's just trying to control and federalize elections so that now they can have a completely federalized national database with everybody's name on it. And this is what they're saying, and Mullen just said it, DHS. They said that they're even going to arrest or charge people if anything happens, if you don't, collaborate with the president, if you don't help to build the national database, and you don't use the national database to filter your lists, and after the elections or during the elections, we find just one person, undocumented person that actually voted, tried to vote, registered. I don't remember if it was registered or voted. But anyway, if they find just one person, they say that now they're going to go and arrest people and prosecute, the people who are running the elections, right? So I'm not sure how high they're going to go. They're talking about, I don't know, I guess, governors that are rejecting participating, or Secretary of States, state secretaries should say. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out and how legal that may or may not be. Of course, right now we know it's unconstitutional, but how's it going to pan out? We know they're going to try it. We know they're just not going to go and ask the courts. We know they're not going to go and ask, legal scholars or academics, ask people within the administration that are supposed to give them, legal counsel. White House has counselors. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump is not going to check with them. They're just going to do whatever they want to do, and then because that's the motor, right? That's their way of just working right now. That's the plan. We're just going to run with whatever we want to run, and we're going to do it, and then let the courts decide if they want to stop us or not, and then we'll try to push all the way to go to the Supreme Court, and at the end of the day, we have a shot. Once we make it to the Supreme Court, we have a shot. What do we have to lose? We can try it and say, well, we believed it was legal, and we made it all the way up here to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court overturns us, then, it is what it is. I'm surprised, to be honest. I'm surprised that they haven't challenged openly 100% yet. They've been trying to, but we still haven't seen a fully open challenge where they say, well, we're sorry, we're not going to do it. Which, a lot of people were afraid of, and I'm concerned about that, because I don't think that Donald Trump is always gonna follow the law. He hasn't done so all the time. Right now, we see that when it comes to the Epstein Transparency Act, they haven't followed the law. You had Todd Blanche telling Congress right now in his hearings just days ago, he's even yesterday. We followed the law. We followed the law. We delivered, we published. We made public all the Epstein files that we could make public. But we know that's not true. And only in the United States, and only under Donald Trump, such a corrupt president, which doesn't surprise me. This guy's been convicted in 34 felonies, and, was found liable for sexual abuse. And he was found liable before, for fraud and just lying to people, and then inflating his property values, and lying to banks, and lying to insurance companies, and falsifying business records so he could have this in the Stormy Daniels case. And I don't know, it's just a lot. Even in 2023, a lot of people don't talk about this. I don't know why this wasn't massive when it came to the media, but in 2023, Donald Trump's business, Trump Organization, was found liable of 14 counts of criminal tax evasion. Of course, it was the corporation, the Trump Organization. So it was his business entity, which is run by Donald Trump, and his CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Alan Weisselberg, went to jail. The guy pled guilty to cooking the books. This guy had to, they're so stupid and so dumb that this guy had 2 sets of books. He had the cookbook that he was using to give to the IRS, saying oh, we're almost broke. We can't pay any taxes. The business is so bad right now. The economy's so bad. We're not making money. And then in the same computer, on that same computer that he had at, Trump Organization that he used, the guy had the real book, the real spreadsheet with all the real money, and also all the things they were doing, behind the curtains or under the table, paying bonuses to people in cash, or paying apartments to people, or giving cars to people, or giving tuition, paying for tuition, all these things under the table. So that meant that all the people who were benefiting from that didn't have to report it. And Donald Trump didn't have to report that he was paying more or even making more money. So it was a whole, pretty much kind of either money laundering or I don't know, but still, it was fraud. They were just defrauding the government, and they were committing a tax evasion. That was between 14 and 15 counts of criminal. It's criminal tax evasion. And as I said, Alan Weisselberg, he did first 5 months in jail. And he did, so that he could get only that lower sentence of 5 months, he promised that he would cooperate in the Trump case with his sons. Remember that Letitia James prosecuted his sons. And that when it came to helping, then he didn't want to help. He wasn't that much of a help. So what happened was that he had to go to jail a second time, because part of the agreement that he had to only do 5 months the first time in jail was that he was going to cooperate and say certain things that he knew. But when it came to throwing Donald Trump and his sons under the bus in that trial that they were facing, then he didn't want to be, completely honest about what he knew. And he rather go to jail again. And he went to jail again. You don't go to jail for no reason. You don't go to jail because of a witch hunt that produces no proof. And this is interesting, right? You always have Donald Trump claiming all these persecutions, everything is a witch hunt, but there's always plenty of evidence against him. Enough to actually convince a grand jury to indict, which I know is not that big of a deal. You can, depending on who's leading the grand jury, we've seen it recently with all these grand juries against Letitia James and James Comey and Adam Schiff and many others. Many cases where the cases have fallen apart. But they say, this old say that you can indict even a ham sandwich, right? But then once you get past that, now at some point you have hearings to actually, check evidence. You have evidence hearings, right? So at that point now, it has to go by the book. You have to present real evidence, and the judge is going to know what happened, which happened with Lindsay Halligan. You know the case, James Comey case? When it came to what they did, even with the Letitia James case, they lied to the jury, or they withheld information from the jury, or they even brought somebody from the FBI to share confidential information that the agent was not supposed to be able to share with the grand jury. So, these people have done a lot of things, but they have failed. But for some reason, Donald Trump's cases, all of them failed. I can tell you, it's been so many cases. But then it's so weird that Democrats, which are always fabricating all these cases against Donald Trump, for some reason, they're able to make these things hold up in court even before Donald Trump appointed judges. So, all I think is at some point, you have to realize, if you're a Republican, at some point you have to realize that, hey, maybe, you know what? Maybe it's not the Democrats. Maybe I thought that, they were just, I don't know, just going after Trump because of politics, and they were making up stuff, and this was a witch hunt, and Russia, and so on. But at some point, if he keeps losing, even in, red states, or even before Republican Trump-appointed judges, at some point you have to just, face the facts, face the truth, and say maybe he actually is a criminal, or maybe he did break the law, or maybe he did, defame E. Jean Carroll after even the Supreme Court rejected his appeal, and he wanted them to reconsider their rejection of the first, their ruling. They ruled, we're not even taking this case. So just pair whatever you owe, and man, I don't know how people can insist in believing a guy that has such a huge record when it comes to the how do you call it, the rap sheet is that what they call it, your record sheet. For some reason they just keep believing. That's a phenomenon that I have discussed a lot in my on my Spanish channel, about how in politics you have the same dynamics that you see in religion. You can fall prey to some destructive cult, and it's really hard for people to just get past that, to just leave a cult, especially if they have been raised they're really invested there. Their family is just like there. So leaving means leaving your family behind. Now you have to divorce or you have kids or something, and now they're gonna stay there because maybe your wife or doesn't want to leave or something like that. So the same happens sometimes with politics. Politicians use the same tactics and techniques that you would see coming from these very skilled and deceitful cult leaders. And Donald Trump pretty much checks almost all the boxes. This guy's combating the media. He's trying to control what kind of information you get. He just literally said on Thursday, because of his speech, which for the first time, I believe in history, we have seen major news networks, literally more than one, not just one, because they had a contract that they just couldn't get around. For instance, if there was a speech some other time, and let's say it was Obama or I don't know, Biden, even Bush, they were gonna give a speech, and it happened that the network. Sorry, my wife just got home, and the dogs are gonna bark for a second. But anyway, so just a second. So, the thing is that imagine if it was Bush or if it was Biden or something like that, and they were all of a sudden they requested a news network to, I don't know, can you just air the speech? We're gonna do a speech tomorrow. Maybe the network could have said something like, hey, you know what? We have a contract because there's this big, I don't know, NBA finals or something, and that slot is already, unfortunately, it's because of a contract. We just can't do it, right? So sometimes they would say no, or even randomly, there was times in which if somebody thought that it was going to be a highly political type of speech, we have seen random here and there, like decisions like that coming from the networks to just not air a particular, speech from a president. But the fact that you see all of a sudden like 3 or 4, we had NBC, we had ABC, we had CNN, particularly CNN. CNN didn't air it on their normal TV network, and they didn't air it on the website. And then ABC and NBC decided, because of the same thing, the same thing that Caitlin Collins said. Caitlin Collins said, hey, we're starting out this show. She's, the host of The Source. And on CNN, Caitlin Collins said, we're not going to air President Trump's speech because he has such a, huge, long history of lying to the people, like voluntarily and knowingly lying to the people, that we're not going to air it because pretty much she was saying, I'm paraphrasing now, it would be a disservice to the country because we always still have to go and fact check, but fact checking everything in real time when he's already, giving all, telling all these lies to the country, it's hard. It's hard. And they said, we're just not going to play this game. And then ABC and NBC said the same thing. Because of, politics and because of, Trump's history, we're not going to air Donald Trump's speech. That was 3 major news networks doing the same thing just because Donald Trump is such a pathological liar that they just couldn't, air the thing. That is totally, I'm telling you, it's shameful. It looks bad, but it goes to say that we're dealing with a known, absolutely 100% known liar. He was found to be lying 30-something thousand times, 30-something thousand times during his first term. Documented lies. This is over 30,000 documented lies on his first term alone. Let alone, the second, Biden's term, that he was like all over, social media and all over the media, at least on, mostly right and right wing and far right wing media, always claiming, pushing, the big lie and so on. How many has he already said by now that he's been 520 something days or 500, maybe more days in office? It's already been way more than 520 or maybe 30. As I read yesterday somewhere, Caitlin Collins asked Caroline Levitt, she asked him, hey, Donald Trump has been in office 500 and whatever, 30, 40 days. if he has been in office that long and you guys have already been discovering all this fraud evidence, that you're sure you have it, why hasn't anyone been indicted yet? And Caroline Levitt said, hey, I can't speak for the Department of Justice. You have to ask the Department of Justice. Whenever she wants, she'll opine. She'll talk about things that are related to the Department of Justice. But this time it didn't suit her narrative. It didn't help her. So she didn't want to answer. And she told Caitlin Collins, that's something you have to ask, the Department of Justice, because I don't speak for the Department of Justice. Yeah, Caroline, we know that's the reason why you want to be so careful to not say something that the Department of Justice should be the one saying it. But anyway, I believe that having a lot of news networks at the same time blocking or at least choosing not to air the president's speech was a huge deal. And I think it sent a real strong message to the country that you just can't trust Donald Trump. And they wouldn't platform this guy until, okay, we're going to cover it, but just not live, because we need time to sit down and go through the whole, list of lies and find the facts. And then we're going to say, we're going to share it. Okay, the president said this, but this is, history. These are the facts. This is what we have. This is what the data shows. And that will be responsible journalism at that point. But I believe that, the fact that he did that tells a lot. It really tells a lot that he's just trying to lay that foundation so that he can have the people supporting whenever he decides to bring ICE into the polling stations, maybe get the National Guard involved or engaged during the elections too. Maybe take some of the voting machines, right? Go and have the National Guard take some of the machines because, now we have proof that China's meddling. We know that this happened in the 2020 election. So we're going to protect the country. We're going to protect the sanctity and integrity of our election. So this is what we're going to do. That's what he's doing. But I don't think what the networks did was wrong in any way. I believe that it was very effective in a timely manner too. Why? Like some of the things that he did, like I said, he just laid the groundwork to eventually say that the elections have been compromised or something, and that will justify him somehow stopping the elections or maybe even seizing machines or something, even before a single vote is counted. He said that he was going to fix all these vulnerabilities that they found, that the machines are so vulnerable right now, they're exposed to be hacked. So he just told us with that part what he's actually planning to do. He just wants to go in and somehow tamper with these machines. So who knows? Then he said something about China. In real time, he said that China was like trying to, just influence our elections, and that was affecting, Donald Trump's trust in China. But at the same time, then he said that he was doing like a great job with China at the same time. So it was kind of like within the same paragraph, he said the two things that were contradicting. Either they are influencing, trying to meddle with our elections and influencing the elections, and they did it in 2020, or they are doing, you're doing a great job with them and everything is, peaches and cream. That didn't even make sense. He also said that China manipulated the 2020 elections, and that that they did it also by having, he said something about the networks, that China was getting the networks. They were influencing news networks to write news articles that were negative about Donald Trump. So anytime you see anything negative right now in the media, on the paper or something, a newspaper, that happens to be Donald Trump. On TV, that happens to be China somehow attacking Donald Trump, because he claims that China wanted Joe Biden to win, and that's why they were influencing the media. But let me say something, guys. There's more that we can say about Donald Trump's speech. But let me say this: like right now, today, pretty much in 2026, it's been 6 years since the 2020 election. that Donald Trump claims were stolen. So saying right now that China somehow interfered, that they meddled in the 2020 election is not good for Donald Trump, because who was president when this happened? Who was the president? It was Donald Trump in 2020. So my question to even Donald Trump and to his own, Trump followers, his MAGA lackeys, it's like, who was the president? It was Trump. So just, ask yourself the same thing. Who was president? If China was meddling in the elections and our elections were just vulnerable at that point, whose fault would that be? Because, that would make Donald Trump look bad. That would put Donald Trump in bad light, because that means that his own government, his agencies were not doing a good job keeping the USA safe, keeping our elections safe. They just couldn't prevent it. They didn't see it coming. They just couldn't identify it as it was happening. They couldn't find it. His own government, Bill Barr, the DOJ back then, CISA, which deals with the cyber, crime. Then you had DHS, and you had the FBI. Every single agency told Donald Trump, you lost. There is not sufficient evidence of, massive voter fraud anywhere. We haven't been able to find it, which is so unfortunate that he just keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, and it's just shameful. Let me play for you. I have Brad Raffensperger called here. Let me play a little bit of that audio too. You know that call when he called Georgia asking, "Oh, I just need you guys to find 11,780 votes for me." Let me play a little bit of that audio so you can just see this. That was a disaster, and it was such a shameful thing to have a president, just pressing his own political party because of the votes, just because he wanted them to find votes. And they told him time and time again, they were telling him, hey, Mr. President, we already did that. The data that you have is just wrong. The people that are saying these things, that's not right because of X, Y, and Z. Check it out. This is an hour-long interview. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play kind of like the relevant audio when it gets intense, when Donald Trump starts accusing them and insisting that they find stuff. So let me see, because I know starts around on this video, which is over an hour long, 1853. So let me go to 1853, and we'll start from that point on. And I'm gonna post a link, so if you want to listen to this whole thing later, which is like an hour long, you can listen to it. But let me play this a little bit of it.
Even, and the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry, and there's nothing wrong with saying that that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and.
Notice that they have been telling him for already like 20 minutes. This is 19 minutes. That there's nothing wrong with the elections. They did all the, of course, the normal counting. They already matched the actual physical ballots with the machines, the digital votes, because these have to match. That's why they keep, ballots. They told them, hey, no ballots were triple counted, like a lot of people were alleging. We already did the recounts. We did everything we could do. We investigated every single claim of fraud. We interviewed all the people that were there. We couldn't find like the fraud that your people that were not here are claiming that happened. And even then, he's like, there's nothing wrong with just recalculating. Why would they recalculate if they find no evidence of fraud? Bear in mind, keep in mind that this is Georgia. This is a Republican state. This is Governor Kemp, Republican. This is Brad Raffensperger, a career Republican. And these people who the last thing wanted was Biden to win are telling him that he lost. This is not the fake media. This is not rhinos. These people are not rhinos. These are not Democrats, Marxists, leftists, whatever, socialists, crazy leftists, right? No, these are career Republicans telling him, bro, what do you mean recalculate? You lost, okay?
Absentee ballots. I mean, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Well, Mr. President,
he was claiming that they had found 56,000, at least 56,000 votes because of, do you guys remember the Rudy Giuliani case where Rudy Giuliani defamed two ladies, these two women? The names were Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, and Rudy Giuliani said that they were, I don't know, like moving ballots when they were alone, that there was no surveillance supposedly, and that they were just stuffing the ballots and then even maybe destroying ballots. There was a lot of rumors. Rudy Giuliani blamed them, and then eventually, once these ladies took him to court, Rudy Giuliani literally admitted in court that he had zero proof. Zero proof. I remember he admitted that. I don't remember right now if he actually ended up pleading guilty or not, but he lost the case. He lost the defamation suit, but he did say in court, because we covered it. Brian Tyler Cohen covered it on his show with Glenn Kirshner. They discussed the actual case and Rudy Giuliani's testimony, admitting that he didn't have the proof to back up, his statements about these ladies supposedly committing fraud. And he ended up having to pay $150 million because of the lies, right? So, well, he paid probably less than that because they ended up agreeing for apparently like a lower amount outside of court. But after they already had, gotten a settlement, at least a ruling, and that penalty of $150 million. Because these ladies, they were threatened. They told them they were gonna kill. They received death threats. They had to move. They were doxing these ladies. They were calling them, emailing them, texting them all the time. As soon as they changed numbers, they would find a new number. As soon as they switch and move to a different new state, they would find the new information in the new state and dox it again. Like, these ladies had no life or peace for years because of Donald Trump and because of Rudy Giuliani. And you're going to hear Donald Trump a lot citing, quoting that incident of, Ruby Freeman, these ladies that were supposedly manipulating the ballots and doing all these illegal things that ended up being not the truth. Because when they saw in court the whole video showed that the boxes they were moving were boxes that were put by all employees under all tables. And these were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was like new ballots or something like that. It was not what Donald Trump was claiming that it was. But anyway, that's something that you can look up on yourself and check about the full video and why it was determined at the court that this was a complete fabrication lie, that the video was proof of nothing at all. Of course, if you just cut a little part of the video when they're grabbing a box and moving a box, there all of a sudden it seems like, yeah, maybe they stole votes or something. That was not the case. But anyway, let's keep listening.
The challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong. We talked to the congressmen and they were surprised, but I guess there was a person named Mr. Raynard that came to these meetings and presented data. And he said that there was dead people, I believe it was upward of 5,000. The actual number were 2.
Look at that. One of Trump's guys that came to present data of the supposed proof told him that he had identified 5,000 dead people, supposedly. And this guy told him, once we did the actual, verification, it was only 2 people.
2 people that were dead that voted. And so that's wrong. That was 2.
Well, Cleta, how do you respond to that? I mean, you tell me.
Donald Trump is asking now Cleta Mitchell, this is one of Trump's top lawyers that since that time, 2020, has been pushing all these election lies and stuff. So listen.
I will say, Mr. Secretary, one of the things that we have requested, and what we said was, and if you read our petition, it said that we took the names and birth years, and we had certain information available to us. We have asked from your office for records that only you have. And so we said there's a universe of people who have the same name and same birth year and died, but we don't have the records that you have. And one of the things that we have been suggesting.
You see how Donald Trump's lawyer, Cleta Mitchell, I believe she's one of the lawyers. Yeah, I know she was definitely engaged in this whole thing, but I believe she's one of the lawyers. And let me just verify right now. I just want to kind of like unsure that if she was one of the lawyers. Yeah, she's an American lawyer and former politician. So yeah, she was definitely leading the charge here with Donald Trump when it came to all these voting claims and stuff. But anyway, so let's keep going. Let me just play the audio here.
Formally and informally for weeks.
So I was going to say that she's claiming like, oh, you have information that we don't have, right? You know, you have data that we don't have. And it's meant to be that way, Cleta Mitchell. It's meant to be that way because you are not, you know, the executive, the president. You are not to be engaged with state elections. They are constitutionally authorized to run their elections however they want to run them. That's a state prerogative and constitutional right and duty, not the executive's constitutional right. Even though it's federal elections, when it comes to running the elections, it's a job that the states have to do, and the executive has nothing to do, has no business calling saying, hey, I need you to send me proof, I need you to send me data. No, because you don't run elections. We have a whole responsibility, and we have laws, and we have already a protocol that's been followed for decades, if not hundreds of years, but at least decades, and it's been pretty much almost flawless to the point that fraud is literally less than 1% in many cases. And I'm telling you, if it's a very low number, it's ridiculous that these people are just trying to make it into this huge deal. Of course, who would that benefit and why? Why would that be so necessary to keep pushing something, keep pushing, some medicine or a solution for a sickness or a problem that doesn't exist? Oh, of course, yeah. If you want to steal elections, if you want to ensure that you don't lose again in 50 or 100 years like Donald Trump is claiming, if you want to tell Christians, vote for me, and I promise you will never have to vote again ever in your life, of course you want to do these things so that you can lay the groundwork, the foundation, to then somehow manipulate and control elections and just win in a very unfair and illegal way.
Now is for you to make available to us the records that would be necessary to confirm.
But Cleta, even before you do that, Cleta, even before you do that, and not even including that, that's why I hardly even included that number, although in one state we have a tremendous amount of dead people, so I don't know. I'm sure we do in Georgia, too. But is that we're so far ahead. We're so far ahead of these numbers. Even the phony ballots of Ruby Freeman, known scammer. You know the internet, you know what?
You see, Ruby Freeman, the lady that Rudy Giuliani defamed, and that he said in court that he had no proof to back his claims, and ended up losing the case and having to pay millions of dollars, and he even filed for bankruptcy because of it. And Donald Trump is saying Ruby Freeman, known scammer. Donald Trump is claiming that she is a known scammer. Where is he getting that from? Of course. Then he says, well, that was all over the internet. They were asking, where's Ruby? Where's Ruby? Something like that. Check it out.
What was trending on the internet? Where's Ruby? Because they thought she'd be in jail.
So you see, Donald Trump's proof that Ruby Freeman was a known scammer was that all over the internet that he follows, his own Truth Social, Republicans, his followers were asking, where's Ruby? Where's Ruby? Yes, if people are questioning online, where is Ruby? I guess that is some form of proof that Ruby Freeman had tampered with, the ballots and had committed fraud or something, and that's why Donald Trump lost. Yeah, because she is a known scammer. Yeah, like she had a criminal record. She had convictions. We had actual proof to say that she was a known scammer. You see how he wants to make everything sound like this guy is a fucking liar. He is such a fucking liar. And you're gonna listen to a little bit more. He keeps talking about, this was verified by accountants. This was verified by lawyers, by professionals. Yeah, he claims that everybody was verifying the things that he was saying. And because some professionals supposedly looked into it and told him like that, something like that, all of a sudden, that's the actual objective truth. And the people in charge of running the elections and doing the recounts and seeing every single thing and interviewing everybody that was there in Georgia, dealing with the elections, no, they know nothing. The people that Donald Trump had maybe conversations with at the White House or who knows where, those are the people that have the real facts and they know the truth. Probably he was talking about, this highly skilled intelligence company called My Pillow Guy. My God. Anyway, let's keep listening.
Where's Ruby? It's crazy. It's crazy. That was the minimum number is 18,000 for Ruby, but they think it's probably about 56,000. But the minimum number is.
See, they're saying that Ruby Freeman supposedly was the one that by moving all those boxes of ballots, supposedly she probably stole at least or manipulated at least 56,000 ballots. If not at least at a minimum, it was at least 18,000.
18,000 on the Ruby Freeman night where she ran back in there when everybody was gone and stuffed. She stuffed the ballot boxes. Let's face it, Brad. I mean, they did it in slow motion replay magnified, right? She stuffed the ballot boxes. They were stuffed like nobody's ever seen them stuffed before.
One thing I love is that he's claiming all these things that happened based on the video because the video was supposedly, amplified. They amplified the video, they zoomed in, and they did it in slow motion. So they're like, this is what they're doing. But they tell them, hey, we played the whole video here for your people or somebody that was there. He's like, we have played that whole video. And whatever you're claiming, it's not there. At least these people had the balls to stand up to Trump and say, hey, just because you're Donald Trump and you're the president, I'm not going to lie. I've been doing this job for a long time. And if we don't have proof, I'm sorry, but we don't have proof, bro. I know that Pete Hegseth, is willing to do whatever Trump wants. If Trump were to, unzip his pants and say, hey, do what you know you have to do, Pete Hegseth would say, yes, thank you, master. It's just going down right now. He would do, you have people like that. Kash Patel will do the same thing so he can keep his position being so highly unqualified. Same as Pete Hegseth, highly unqualified. They would do whatever to keep their positions. But there's a lot of people out there that still, even being Republicans, career Republicans, and that, they want to see their party win, they're not willing to bend, the law or to just violate the Constitution or to do something shady and just questionable just because, we have rules and regulations and laws and we have the Constitution, and that's what you follow. You don't follow a man. You're supposed to follow an ideal, and you're supposed to, if you're a real patriot, you're supposed to defend the Constitution. You're supposed to defend the rule of law and democracy, not a convicted felon. Anyway, let's keep going.
So there's a term for it when it's a machine instead of a ballot box. But she stuffed the machine. She stuffed the ballot. Each ballot went 3 times. They were showing, here's ballot number 1. Here it is a second time, third time, next ballot. I mean, look, Brett, we have a new tape that we're going to release. It's devastating. And by the way, that one event is much.
You think what I think is sad? Donald Trump is on the phone to these people. These are Republicans. These are, his people. These people are his people. These people campaigned for him and helped them win the first time around, 2016. And now in 2020, he lost. And he's just like completely nagging at them and, just throwing them under the bus and accusing them of doing stuff. And you'll see it gets a little bit worse soon. He's pretty much accusing them of taking sides to do something criminal against Republicans and against the country. You'll hear that in a second. But I find it so unfortunate that, okay, let's say that he was genuinely confused, believing that there was fraud because, he was getting all this feedback from crazy people, but he doesn't know they're crazy. He believes that they're professional, whatever. Let's say that he got duped, and of course, he's very capable of being duped because he's already an old, senile, not very bright, guy. You can be very good at scamming people and, make billions of dollars. That doesn't mean you're a very, very bright person. It just means that you're good at scamming people, right? Unknown. He is a known scammer, right? But I find it unfortunate that you, as the U.S. president, you call one of your own red states, and you're talking to some of your most loyal and hardworking people. You don't make it to governor. You don't make it to state secretary unless you have a career. People know you, and you have been doing the job for a long time in this case. But anyway, the thing is that you're calling your own people, and instead of saying, "Hey, I have all these questions," and once you get the answers, just responding as, "You know what? Okay, I'm not happy. I still have, I guess, doubts, but I do appreciate you guys clearing up A, B, and Z, and I think we still can look into D and F, but, I have to trust you guys." He didn't trust his own people. He didn't trust his own people, and you can see how every time he claims conspiracy number one, they tell him, "Hey, conspiracy number one explanation is this. There's no, such thing." Okay, he jumps to conspiracy number two immediately. "Oh, but what about conspiracy number two?" "Yeah, that also is false." "Okay, what about conspiracy number three?" "Yeah, that's also false." "No, but what about conspiracy number four?" You're gonna see it's like claim after claim, and they tell him no, and he comes up with another one, and his tone and resilience and his obsession tells you that this guy was not on this call looking for honest answers about what was real. He was on this call, making this call, because he wanted these people to change the result, and he was not taking no for an answer. He was not accepting a single. You're gonna see there's not a single time that Donald Trump says, "Oh yeah, you know what, my bad." At least on that particular point, I believe that makes sense. The way you're presenting it now. Maybe we just were lacking some context or detail. Now that we know that, yeah, I have to give you that one. Yeah, that one is not something we should look into anymore, because at least you have that one already down. You cleared it. Perfect. No. Every single explanation he rejects and moves on right to the next conspiracy theory claim. And I'm telling you, it's unfortunate because this is the U.S. president. You're the sitting president. You're also a candidate, and he doesn't even care that it looks crooked, that you're fighting for your own win. You're fighting so that you don't lose the election. And that in and of itself gives you a motivation to actually bend the rules and go against the Constitution and do shady things that you shouldn't be doing. I don't think we have in history any precedent that I know of that has been calling a state, asking them for votes for a full hour, literally, just hammering them and then almost insulting them, pretty much insulting them by telling them that they're doing criminal stuff, that they're taking side with criminals. And what you're doing is I believe he almost said, almost verbatim, something like they were doing almost criminal stuff because they were taking sides with people who wanted to do criminal stuff against, the American people and destroying American democracy or so. That's bad. That's bad because he'll never accept anything, and he never even showed, not even a single time, not even a single second, Donald Trump was open to listen. Okay, let me see the evidence. Please clear it for me. And if you do, hey, I just wanted to double check. No, that was not why he was on this call. And you'll see as we move on, and we're already at minute number 22. This is already all the way up to an hour. I'm just going to do probably like 5 more minutes.
More than the 11,000 votes that we're talking about. It's, that one event was a disaster. It's just, but it was something that it can't be disputed. And again, we have a version that you haven't seen, but it's magnified. It's magnified, and you can see everything. And she put, for some reason, they put it in 3 times each ballot, and I don't know why, but why? I don't know why 3 times. Why not 5 times, right? But yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Rudy Giuliani or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. So the next day we brought in WSB TV and we let them see the full run of tape. And what you'll see, the events that transpired are nowhere near what was projected by,
But where were the poll watchers, Brad? There were no poll watchers there. There were no Democrats or Republicans. There was no security there. It was late in the evening, or early in the morning, and there was nobody else in the room. Where were the poll watchers? And why did they say a water main broke, which they did, and which is reported in the newspapers? They said they ran out because of a water main break, and there was no water main. There was nothing. There was no break. There was no water main break. But if you take out everything, where were the Republican poll watchers? Even where were the Democrat poll watchers? Because there were none. And then you say, well, they left their station. If you look at the tape, and this was reviewed by professional police and detectives and other people. When they left in a rush, everybody left in a rush because of the water main, but everybody left in a rush. These people left their station. When they came back, they didn't go to their station. They went to the apron wrapped around the table under which were thousands and thousands of ballots in a box that was not an official or a sealed box. And then they took those and they went back to a different station. So if they would have come back, they would have walked to their station and they would have continued to work. But they couldn't do even that because that's illegal because they had no Republican poll watchers. And remember, her reputation is devastating. She's known all over the internet.
Look at that again. These people have no criminal record, no record whatsoever related to any mishandling of election, fraud, or any fraud whatsoever. These ladies didn't have any criminal. These were not criminals, career criminals. He is. So, of course, when you're a criminal, you think everybody else is a criminal, but these people had no criminal record. And he again says, oh, she's known. Like, let me just go back a second here.
Her reputation is illegal because they had no Republican poll watchers. And remember, her reputation is devastating. She's known all over the internet.
Her reputation. What reputation are you talking about? You guys sliced this video, took it out of context. You accused her, and now all of a sudden, now Donald Trump is saying that she has a reputation, that she's all over the internet. Yeah, she has a reputation now that you and Rudy Giuliani have created by amplifying unsubstantiated claims. With no proof. You just wanted to get the word out there and say that she was responsible, and then it fell apart in court because you used just like 5 seconds of a video, 7 seconds of a video, but then when you show the full video, it showed that everybody had done the same thing, that these were boxes that were under all the tables. This had nothing to do with manipulating the ballots. But anyway, she has a reputation. You see, she's terrible. This is a terrible person, of course.
Brett, she's known all over. I'm telling you, where's Ruby was one of the hot items on the Ruby. They knew her.
Yeah,
where's Ruby?
She has to be guilty.
So, Brad,
where's Ruby?
There can be no justification for that. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But
of course
that was, and Brad, why did they put the votes in 3 times? They put them in 3 times.
Mr. President, they did not put that. We did an audit of that, and we proved conclusively that they were not scanned 3 times.
Look at that, Brad Raffensperger, Georgia State Secretary, Secretary of State. I'm saying it inverted, but anyway, Georgia's Secretary of State said that it wasn't scanned 3 times. We did an audit on that, and that didn't happen.
Well, where was everybody else at that late time in the morning? Where was everybody? Where were the Republicans? Where were the security guards? Where were the people? There can be no justification for that. And
You see what I'm telling you? Donald Trump claims, oh, but they scanned these ballots 3 times. Well, Brad, tell me about that. They scanned it. So why you're asking him to tell you something when you're telling him what you believe happened, and you don't want to listen. So when Brad tells him, hey, we did an audit and that didn't happen, you don't say Donald Trump, say, oh, yeah. Okay, let's get that one out of the way. Let's move on to the next one. No. Oh, no. He moves on to something else and doesn't acknowledge that they just debunked, his own Republican people that did the job. And this was highly scrutinized to the point where DHS, or it was CISA said in 2020 that this was the safest election ever, just because it was so scrutinized because of Donald Trump's lies. This was the most highly scrutinized election in history, and there was little to no fraud. But still, Donald Trump is, pushing the same thing and, same lies. But as soon as they tell him something that he doesn't want to hear, he'll either insist or move on to the next one, but he will never acknowledge that whatever claim he had was debunked in real time during this call. I
give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but that was, and Brad, why did they put the votes in 3 times? They put them in 3 times.
Mr. President, they did not put that. We did an audit of that, and we proved conclusively that they were not scanned 3 times.
Well, where was everybody else at that late time in the morning? Where was everybody? Where were the Republicans? Where were the security guards? Where were the people that were there just a little while before?
I'm going to tell you something. This is just not, not just pathetic to listen to. Like I'm listening to this, just, listening to it right now because I want to share it. But I did listen to this early on because I have quoted this so much on my Spanish channel, and I do this, but I have to, on my Spanish channel, I have to listen, translate, and then give my opinion. So it turns into way longer video. And considering that this is an hour long, it's really hard to cover, many of the things. So I was listening to it because I was thinking, I may just translate the whole thing. It may take me a couple of days, but I may dub it to Spanish, do like 20 minutes today, maybe another day I'll do 20, and then piece them together until I have the full hour in Spanish. So that's why I was listening to this today. And I was saying like, oh man, this is just like even so hard to just listen to this call. And this is me. I can't even imagine how these people felt like, bro, like, can we just end this fucking call right now? Like, I just can't take this asshole just making up all these things when he knows nothing, when he has access to nothing, when it's obviously he's just trying to pressure us into doing whatever he wants us to do, which is to find me 11,780 votes that didn't exist because Biden was beating him by 11,779. That's why he was saying, I need you to find me 11,780 votes, one more than what Biden had.
When everyone ran out of the room. How come we had no security in the room? Why did they run to the bottom of the table? Why did they run there and just open the skirt and rip out the votes? I mean, Brad. And they were sitting there, I think, for 5 hours or something like that, the most. But they just all happened to run back and go, Brad. Come on.
Yeah, Mr. President, we'll send you the link from WSB that does.
I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have much.
We'll send you the link.
Check this. When Trump is claiming that they were running and coming back to the stations, then Brad says, Mr. President, we will send you the link with the full video. And he's like, I don't care about the link. Look at how he rejects. That's why I'm telling you, he was not on this call to clear up any claim and get the facts from the people on the ground, Republicans who did their job the right way under a very high, scrutiny in the middle of this very highly scrutinized election. He was literally saying, rejecting evidence. So you're claiming the video was manipulated. Let me send you the original, the full video, so you can see the whole thing. I don't want no link. That's all you need to know. The guy, he didn't want to even look into these things in detail to see. He didn't want to see the evidence. That's like, when you have a friend, they're cheating on your friend, and you bring a picture like, bro, they sent me a picture of your wife cheating on with your coworker. I have the picture. I don't want to see that. I don't believe you. Don't show me. Don't tell me anything. You're just jealous, man. Don't talk to me. There's people like that. There's people that will reject reality because they just want to live in a bubble in a fantasy world, and they don't want to accept the fact that they may be with somebody who's just trash, that's cheating on them. And they resisted. So that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. He's literally saying, no, I don't want any link. I don't need it. Really.
Link from WSB that doesn't.
I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have a much better link.
I will tell you, I've seen the tape, the full tape. So has Alex. We've watched it. And what we saw and what we've confirmed in the timing is that they made everybody leave. We have sworn affidavits saying that. And then they began to process ballots. And our estimate is that there were roughly 18,000 ballots. We don't know that. If you know that.
There was 18,000 ballots, but they used each one 3 times.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know.
Well, I do because we had.
Look at this. This is Cleta Mitchell, who's one of the leading voices during this process. And Trump says about the 18,000. She mentions the 18,000, and he says, yeah, but they were using them 3 times, so that's how he goes from 18, to what, 36, and then like 50-something, 58, whatever it is. And she's like, well, I don't know about that. Like even Cleta Mitchell says, I don't know about that, about, them like using them 3 times each. But he's like, yeah, but I know. Yeah. How do you know? When they offer to send the video, you even say that you don't even want to see the full video. But yeah, you know it. You know it all, Donald. We always know that you know it all, and nobody knows more about election fraud and investigating election fraud than you, right? Of course.
Ours magnified out. So each one magnified out.
I've watched the entire thing.
But nobody can make a case for that, Brett. Nobody. I mean, look, you'd have to be a child to think anything other than that. Just a child.
Okay, so you see how he starts insulting now. So he pretty much ran out of bullets. He used all his claims, all his conspiracy theories. Every single one was debunked. And remember, we're already at 27 minutes, but so it's been ongoing for 27 minutes. I started playing this at minute 18, almost 19, 18:53. So for 18 minutes, Donald Trump went on a whole rant of why everything was fraud, and there was some back and forth. But here's where things start to get out of hand and intensified, and they start openly just saying no. They start telling him, hey, you're wrong. The information you got is wrong, and they just decided to not take it. Because, of course, they don't have the proof to back, Trump's claims. But at this point now he says, oh, if you believe that, then you have to be a child. You have to be a child. And so that's insulting already. This is professional people. These are, you're talking about the highest officials. You have Republican officials in Georgia, and you're going to call these people unqualified and that they're children just because they can't find the evidence that you say they should be able to find. And you see how this is also interesting, that in the same way I was telling you, Donald Trump is always he has to be the unluckiest guy on earth and in history, because Democrats always find a way to make it to court and to prove in court that Donald Trump, he violated the law, or that, he stole classified documents, or he incited an insurrection, or he falsified documents and committed fraud in New York and violated campaign finance laws, and who knows what else, or that he actually sexually abused E. Jean Carroll, and so on. All those, somehow Democrats are always so skilled that every single case against Trump, almost every single case, makes it to court, and it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did what they claim he did in court. But Donald Trump's cases, right now, Trump's DOJ, including DHS and ICE cases, Trump's DOJ currently is losing 90% of its cases. This is unheard of. In this case, the DOJ, federal government, would normally have around a 99 winning percentage, 98 point something. They would seldom lose a case. Granted, most of these cases were cases that they actually took. But why are they confronting all these lawsuits right now? Because of all the executive orders that Donald Trump is putting out there. He's signing all these executive orders to try to bypass Congress and to try to override even the Supreme Court and the Constitution. And it just doesn't work like that. Of course, he's getting this massive wave of lawsuits, but he's losing almost every single lawsuit. Right now, I just saw a stat from the New York Times. Out of the last 100, well, not the last, but he's been sued like 700 times or something like that. Out of the cases that have been already, like ruled upon, like these cases are final, Donald Trump has, out of like 175, he has won 7. Out of 175, the Trump administration has won 7 cases. And of course, there's many more that are open right now. But it's like 90 to 99 people actually have won the cases, and like 70 or 80 have been completely dismissed because, these were frivolous cases. That, the government didn't have proof or something. It's been a disaster when you have 175 cases that have already been, ruled upon and they're final, and you have won only 7. Imagine that. So out of 175, 50% of that is going to be like 85 or so. And let's just do some numbers here. That's even less than 1%, pretty much. Let me see here. Yeah, 87.5. So that would be 87.5. That would be 50%. 25% would be 43 cases. Divided by 2, that would be 12%. 12.5% would be you winning 21 cases. 12%. Then 6% would be winning at least 10 cases. So Donald Trump is right now, like I'm saying, literally at barely 10%. 10% right now of cases. So again, 1 out of every 10. It's the same thing, and that's a different stat than we've gotten from different sources. But this one was quantified by the New York Times specifically about cases that were already like final. We had a final ruling, and the Trump administration has won only 7. That's not a good thing. When you have an administration losing so many cases, that means that they're wasting. Literally, this is wasting 90% of the budget that they're using, because they're using it, just pursuing the wrong people and, the wrong things. And that's why they're losing so much, and that because they're violating constitutional rights. And Donald Trump is just signing all these executive orders, enacting executive orders that just won't hold up in court, but he doesn't care. He just wants to do it because by the time they stop him, he may have, gotten away with who knows what. But let's play just 2 more minutes, because I just can't take more of this freaking call. It's just such a disaster.
Never Trump or U.S. attorney
how many
there.
ballots? How many ballots, Mr. Secretary, are you saying that were processed in?
We had GPI thoroughly investigate that.
We had this is Ryan Germany. We had our law enforcement officers talk to everyone who was there after that event came to light. GBI was with them as well as FBI agents.
Well, there's no way they could. Then they're incompetent.
Look at that. So Brad Raffensperger and his team of people dealing with the election and answering to Trump, they're child. So you have to be a child to believe that. Now they're telling him, hey, we had our people, law enforcement and GDI, even the FBI interviewing all these people. We couldn't find anything. Also, then, okay, so everybody's incompetent. The Republicans are incompetent. Law enforcement is incompetent. GDI, the FBI, all of them are incompetent. And the only competent people are in the White House. Do you think that really makes sense?
They're either dishonest
what did they
or
find?
incompetent, okay? There's only 2 answers, dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way. Look.
Logical fallacy. There's only 2 answers. Dishonesty. You see, there's no way they can be right. There's no way they did their job the right way and they didn't find proof of what I'm claiming. No, there's only 2 options. They're either dishonest or they are incompetent. No, there's a third option. You are a fucking, sore loser who just can't accept reality and is trying to steal an election that, you didn't win. That's a third option. So you're right now, that's why I'm saying it's logical fallacy. You're just presenting only 2 options when we have more, probable options. So it is what it is, man. I'm telling you, this is completely shameful. And again, you have to be a special kind of, I don't know what, to continue to support this guy and this whole charade and theatrics, because that's what it is, just theatrics.
There's no way. And on the other thing I said, too, there's no way. I mean, there's no way that these things could have been, you know, you have all these different people that voted, but they don't live in Georgia anymore. What was that number, Clay? That was a pretty good number, too. Yeah.
Well, the number who had registered out of state after they moved from Georgia. And so they had a date when they moved from Georgia. They registered to vote out of state, and then it's like 4,500. I don't have that right in front of me.
And then they came back in and they voted.
And voted. Yeah.
No, that was a large number, though. It was in the 20s. And, you know, the point
We've
is...
been going through each of those as well, and those numbers.
Look at that. They made the claim of all these people that supposedly moved out of Georgia and then moved back in. So they're claiming that's more fraud right there. And look now, hear the explanation.
You know, the point
We've
is...
been going through each of those as well, and those numbers that we got, that Ms. Mitchell was just saying, they're not accurate. Everyone we've been through are people that lived in Georgia, moved to a different state, but then moved back to Georgia legitimately. And in many cases...
Really? How many people do that? You mean they moved out and then they said...
Again, same pattern. He hears a reasonable explanation. Okay, some people told you that these people didn't live here, but when we check the actual history and the facts, these people have moved out and then moved back in. And now he's going to tell them they moved in even way before the election. So this is not like a recent thing they did to try to beat Trump now. In some cases, they had to return to Georgia many years. But if you go and you find that this person had moved and that's the only like piece of data that you use and not when they moved back in and the date and the details, of course, you're going to have skewed data. But listen how, as soon as he hears the explanation again, he's like, here we go again. Why can't I just win one? Give me just one. Brad, please let me win one. Please, no. That's like a fucking little baby, man. I'm telling you, it's just like a tantrum. Bro, grow up. Grow up. It's just called, being an adult. You're not always going to win, but Donald Trump, of course, he can never lose. So it has to be fraud. If Donald Trump, I loved, Bill Maher's interview with J.D. Vance, just this little segment, because I don't like that much, Bill Maher that much anyway. But Bill Maher told J.D. Vance, probably you guys saw it, it went viral. It was a clip that went viral out of the whole recent interview, like 2 weeks ago or so, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, maybe 2 weeks. Bill Maher told him Sunday, hey, there's something that, has to stop. He told him, like, with Trump and you Republicans, it's always one thing. It's either Donald Trump wins, like Republicans win, or the Democrats, cheated. There's no way that they can win fair and square. Like, we win elections. If we lose, it's cheating. And he looked at J.D. Vance, pointed at him, and said, this shit has to stop. And it's true. You have to just be, just be honest and be an adult. And if you want to claim that there's fraud, fine. Claim that there's fraud. Take it to the courts. Show your proof. But once the courts rule in your favor or against you, it's done. You have to stop it sometime. Donald Trump did this over 60 times in the courts. Every single case was either dismissed or even the Trump administration, like Trump's own lawyers, actually just withdrew. Okay, so sometimes they did it, they got the news out there, and then they withdrew the case, or the cases were dismissed during the evidence hearing. Okay, not a single case. Tell me how how could this happen? Even before Republican judges, even before Trump appointed judges, there were like 6 or 7 of the people who actually ruled against him. Trump appointed judges, like 6 or 7 of them, and Donald Trump, not a single time, not even before Republican judges could take any of these cases to trial. So again, this is why I'm saying at some point, you have to look at this guy and say, you know what? He did dupe us. This guy, he duped us. At least Tucker Carlson is saying right now, you know what? I have to say I'm sorry. I have to apologize because we lied. Pretty much we lied to the people. Something like that. I was saying. I know in Spanish you say translation is like that they took advantage of the people. They just gave the people the wrong information, and he's like, all this that's happening right now it's our fault in a way. He was talking to somebody else. He's like, you wrote speeches for him. Like if somebody, the guy that was with him at during that episode was a Trump, I guess, Trump supporter too, that worked during the campaign, helping Trump to write speeches and do some other stuff, some other things. And even, Tucker, guys, it's falling apart. It's Tucker Carlson. You have Nick Fuentes. You have Megyn Kelly also criticizing Donald Trump left and right a lot. You have, what's it called? The Manosphere, guys. It's like they're constantly criticizing Donald Trump. Joe Rogan, when it comes to the Epstein files, when it comes to the Iran war, it's falling apart. And then on top of that, there's no relief. There's no lowering groceries. There's no lowering home prices, or there's no lowering rent or freezing, rent prices. There is no boom of the, manufacturing here. Some people were always waiting for what, $2,000 or some, I guess some incentive that was going to be supposedly sent, some check, some $5,000, $2,000, $1,000 check, whatever it was. Nobody got it, and then businesses had a bunch of problems, tons of problems, corporations, unemployment is up, inflation is now up to 4.2, Biden left inflation at 4%, gas right now, average right now as of today is like $3.70 or 80 cents, Biden left it at 3.10. So what's the golden era? Well, the golden era is that Trump has a fucking, $1 billion plane. Actually, more than that. It's $1.4 billion plane, because it was $400 million when he got it from the Qatari government, and then it was like over $900 million to actually get it up to date. And now we even know that it's not even as secure as the prior Air Force One, as we saw now during recent weeks. And now Donald Trump is even issuing subpoenas. The Department of Justice, they're issuing subpoenas for the New York Times reporters who told the world that Donald Trump had to switch planes because the plane wasn't safe enough. And they made, Americans pay over $900 million to get this plane up to speed, which Donald Trump is just going to take in 2 years. Once he's done, he's going to take it with him. And, I'm telling you, it's just a disaster. Of course, it's the golden era. They made already $2.2 billion in just 2025 alone. You guys saw that all over the news. So, yeah, of course, they're banking. They're making bank. They're cashing out right now on the government. But what about the people? Not even Republicans. So Republicans, they know it. At least honest Republicans, they know. Right now, the USA sucks. The only thing they have to show up for is what? That they're abusing migrants. And I guess some people in the MAGA world love to see people suffering and families being completely abused and broken, and that they're even killing people, citizens and migrants alike. And I guess some people that are sick, that, they have this racist mindset or whatever, you'll have people maybe enjoying something like that, but that's not even dealing with the migration problem and the lack of a sound migration reform. They had a migration reform which was bipartisan, originated by James Langford, and then he worked with Sinema, and I don't remember who was the other person back then. And when Biden was ready to sign it, a bipartisan bill, which was a major overhaul, the biggest overhaul in I don't know how many decades of the immigration system, that would have strengthened the border, would have appointed way more judges and helped to build facilities, and then help with more technology to have better screening and scanning, at the port entries, and a bunch of other great things. I'm telling you, they worked on that bill for a long time. What did Trump do? He killed it, so the Biden didn't get a win, so that he could keep accusing Biden until the elections of not dealing with the problem that Biden was ready to sign, to solve it by approving that bill. But Donald Trump didn't want to give him the win. And then now they're back in power and they have the majority. Have they introduced a bill? No, they have executive orders. That's what they're running on, executive orders, but there's no major immigration reform. Why? Because they want to be able, if some point they lose the elections or whatever, they want to be able to use the same boogeyman, the same accusations that the border hasn't been fixed. But we had an opportunity to approve the most comprehensive immigration reform in decades, in a bipartisan way, and Biden was about to sign it, and Donald Trump killed it. That's how much he is committed to fixing the border issue. Right now, what they're doing is not fixing the border issue. They're just dealing with cruelty. But in doing so, they are destroying the economy. They're destroying businesses. They're destroying farmers that don't have enough workers. They're destroying a bunch of restaurants that don't have enough workers. They're destroying the construction company that don't have enough workers. His whole communities. And then on top of that, he's destroying his own party, because a lot of people, even within his own party, yes, they want criminals out. Yes, they want undocumented people out. They didn't want this violence the way they're doing it. But this is what you get. This is exactly what you get, man. I'm not even gonna go back to this interview, but you can see how he was rejecting every single thing. Let me share the link. I told you I was gonna share the link. I'm gonna share the link in case you want to listen to this whole interview. Phone call between Brad Raffensperger and Donald Trump, and I don't know if a Kemp was on this call, probably was, but I believe this was more with State Secretary Brad Raffensperger and his team. And Donald Trump was literally pressing these guys and insisting they find 11,780 votes that were not available. They didn't exist, and he wouldn't take no for an answer, and he wouldn't take any explanation. He was just not having it. And this is what we saw in 2020. It was not just Brad Raffensperger. It was the White House counsel and team. They told them, Pat Cipollone in the White House, they told him it's time to concede. And he didn't want to concede. Bill Barr told him, and he didn't want to concede. Mike Pence told him he didn't want to concede. Republican lawyers told him he didn't want to concede. CISA told him he didn't want to concede. DHS told him he didn't want to concede. The FBI told him he didn't want to concede. At some point, you have to say, yeah, he just made up all these claims. But that's what we're seeing. Like, all these people told him he just wouldn't take no for an answer. He was gonna win, or he was just gonna, of course, claim forever. He was gonna be a forever victim, which is kind of stupid, right? Right now, you talk about Epstein. He's like, you're still talking about Epstein. It's been, the guy died like 4 years ago, whatever it is. He died in 2021, that he supposedly committed, he took his life supposedly. I believe it was 2021, probably 2020, 2021. This has been roughly like 4 to 5 years. And Donald Trump is telling even survivors, and he's telling the press and everybody, the media, it's time to turn the page. You guys are still talking about Epstein. We need to turn the page, because we have so many great things happening right now. Who wants to be looking, to the past? But then he wants to be looking at the past and going back to the 2020 election, so he can be an eternal, always forever victim. But the Epstein survivors have to just, suck it up and move on. We're not going to talk about this anymore. Donald Trump hasn't done a single interview with the Epstein victims. They sent, which is unfortunate, they sent Blanche to hold a meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. But has Donald Trump ordered Blanche to meet with all the survivors? Hey, bring them to the DOJ. I want to have a meeting with all of them. We want to hear what they have to say. Maybe prior administrations just missed stuff. I want to hear them out. Of course not. He wants to hear out Ghislaine Maxwell, and Ghislaine Maxwell got a sweetheart deal. Now she was moved to a lower security prison, and she has, like, I don't know, I think she takes like yoga lessons, I've heard, and apparently she can there's like pets or something, she can see pets or whatever. Now she's pretty much at a resort, some sort of form of like resort or so, and they did that. So I'm telling you, it's just, man, it's the thing, one thing after the other, and that's why he's losing so much support within his own people. Donald Trump's approval rating is in the toilet right now, literally 30%. Absolutely horrendous. And you know what? And you Republicans should start, like raising your voices and calling Trump out so that he can see, you pressure this guy. He's going to take your whole party down with him because he doesn't care. He's a lame duck. Donald Trump is on his way out, even though I believe he's not leaving. Like, you don't fix a house which you're renting. You're about to, your contract is up in 6 months and supposedly you're leaving. And you're going to make all these renovations to the columns, to the reflectant pool, to, building this whole now, $600 million ballroom. For who? For Gavin Newsom? There's no way J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio are winning the next election. There is no way. So it's either going to be Gavin Newsom, it may be Kamala Harris. Who knows? Maybe AOC can surprise us because she has actually turned very popular lately. She's climbing the polls among Democrats. Kamala Harris still has the best percentage when it comes to the polls, but Gavin Newsom is way up there. And Gavin Newsom has been positioning himself more towards the center. He's been actually talking to Republicans. He has been going on their shows. He has brought Republicans to his own show. Even Steve Bannon. A lot of Democrats were mad about it, but we have to coexist and we have to be able to talk. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think Gavin is doing the right thing because you need some Republicans to vote for you. You're not going to make it only with Democrats and most of the independents. You may still need Republicans that are completely, frustrated, disappointed. You're going to need some of them to vote for you too. And so he's doing the right thing right now, trying to, at least show that he's willing to listen and that he's willing to take some positions right now like he did. Gavin Newsom surprised everybody saying all of a sudden during I believe it was his first podcast with Charlie Kirk. I believe that he opened with Charlie Kirk. Look at that. He hosted Charlie Kirk for his first show. And I believe it was to Charlie Kirk that he told them that he didn't believe that a transgender woman should participate in women's sports. And he thought that should be a biological thing. You're a biological woman, you play biological, in women's sports, which should be biological, based on biology and not on, how you identify. That was a very radical position to take as, a Democrat, because most Democrats have been almost 100% in favor, of course, of, the LGBT community and trans, and even trans in sports. I'm a progressive, and I'm with Gavin on that one. I'm not convinced that the I guess I'm gonna say the limited science that we have right now, even though I'm all for trans having equal rights when it comes to almost everything else, but this is a touchy subject yet because I believe that I don't think the science is completely settled when it comes to the right time to do therapies, to do hormonal therapy or whatever, to do puberty blockers. I think it may be dangerous, and I don't think it's fair. I think we need more hearings on this, and maybe bring in psychiatrists and psychologists and experts in the subject, and then also physical professionals in physical training and performance and all that. Even the Army did some studies on this. Check it out. There's some studies already in terms of performance after taking hormone therapy or even testosterone. They did it, and they tested the performance of different, military personnel doing that, and they have some findings. I'm not sure if that's enough at this point to say, yeah, we want every single trans person to be able to participate in women's sports. Yeah, just because we have a preliminary study from, I don't know, the military or something, and that was some time ago. But anyway, I'm not fully convinced of that. I think I need to learn more about it. So I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not no expert in when it comes to their transitioning and their performance. I just know that by default, if you're born a male, I know it's not the norm, it's not always, but more often than not, you're going to have a bigger body, you're going to have a stronger body, you're going to have wider and bigger bones, you're going to have bigger lungs, you're going to have a bigger heart, you're going to have longer legs, longer arms. It's just not I'm saying on average, because we have very little and weak men which couldn't, hold a candle when it comes to facing women in certain sports. Like for instance, I'm 49, I'm 170 pounds, and Ronda Rousey would freaking beat my ass in a UFC match. I wouldn't last 10 seconds fighting Ronda Rousey because she's a freak of nature. She's strong and very skilled, so I wouldn't stand a chance. So I know that may be relative in some cases, but all I'm saying is that in most cases, based on averages, the science is also out there. Is clear that even if you were to do some therapy and do some hormonal therapy or do testosterone, you're still going to have certain advantages, because even if we kind of like weaken you to a certain point, I'm still may have, a higher stature than you. I may have longer arms. I'm still going to have a bigger heart. So I'm not fully convinced when it comes to the claim that doing these therapies 100% levels the playing field, because number one, we're looking at just one metric. We're looking at what's your number. It's like a number on a spreadsheet. We're looking at a number, at value, after you took, for instance, 3 months of hormonal therapy or 3 months of testosterone. And now we're trying to measure certain numbers on a spreadsheet, so a value. But that doesn't measure the whole thing. This is also a psychological thing. Have we evaluated how a person, imagine this, all of a sudden Mike Tyson transitions and he wants to fight the greatest women that we have in boxing and heavyweight. Do you think the best heavyweight women would be able to beat Mike Tyson if he were to transition right now? And if Mike Tyson did, I don't know, 6 months of hormonal therapy or something like that to kind of like weaken a little bit his masculine, lower his testosterone, weaken him so that now he can have a performance supposedly similar to that of a woman, do you think it would be fair to put Mike Tyson in a ring? What does that do to your psyche? If you're coming in as a woman, it doesn't matter. You can be the greatest woman. Probably there's a lot of them that may be extremely strong mentally and say, I don't give a shit. I'm sure I could beat Mike Tyson if he does the therapy, and now we have the numbers, scientific numbers, that he's weakened, and now he's more like level with a woman when it comes to strength and velocity, speed, whatever. I'm pretty sure that still you're going to have women going into whatever sport it is almost feeling defeated because they know that there may be an unfair advantage, and there's a psychological side to that. And I don't think that's being factored in, the psychological impact that you have going in, knowing that you're not going, fighting and comparing apples to apples. I know you were, at some point, you were a biological male. You may even still be, and just, identify as a woman now. And I know you had a great performance in basketball or tennis or boxing or taekwondo, whatever the sport is. I don't have a problem if we're going to compete and we're playing, for instance, maybe table tennis, even though there's still a component of speed and agility and strength. But I believe it's less of an impact probably there. But especially, I was going to say more like when there's no contact, let's say, okay, let's do, I don't know, playing pool, or let's do something else, that doesn't require like, I call it archery is what you call it. We say in Spanish, arco y flecha, like you're going to do archery. I believe it's like archery. Yeah. So yeah, let's do this. Yeah, because I'm not facing you. It's just, in that case, it's completely different. It doesn't matter who's like, I don't know if it's just like shooting. Also, if you're going to shoot some shooting sport, golf, you see, because I'm not competing against you in a physical manner, but any other sport that it involves some form of physical performance, if I was a biological woman, I would be thinking, at least thinking from a logical standpoint, that there may be a psychological disadvantage. We do sports psychology for a reason, because even competing, apples to apples, biological women versus biological women, there is sometimes some people may have an advantage psychologically, and that's why people and athletes do sports psychology, because your psyche, your mindset is a huge deal when you're doing sports. And I think it will throw you off your game. I think it will completely sidetrack you. You train your whole life to face just women, in this case, like you, biological women, and all of a sudden now you're facing somebody that, of course, is a woman based on her her change to identify as a woman. But he was a biological male, and she's taller and she's stronger. She has bigger arms, and you're gonna be. It's gonna impact you psychologically. And I'm gonna tell you, this is a very hard and difficult thing. I think it's hard. Why? Because I feel bad. I'm trying to speak from a very objective and logical point of view, but I feel bad because I support trans people, but then I still don't understand that the science is, like I said, completely settled when it comes to this, that it would be completely safe and fair. But then I know life isn't fair, because as much as people want to argue that the trans thing is just like a voluntary thing that is not involuntary, that some people just can't control how they feel, we don't know everything about the brain. And the brain is still part of biology. So you may claim, oh yeah, you're 100% a man because you were born a biological male. Therefore, I don't care what you think, but the brain is also part of your biology. And we have experts that study the brain, and the expert that study the brain tell you that this is not an optional thing, that this is not pathology, that they're just not sick, that they're just not crazy people. It's just it's a real physical manifestation of a brain that performs differently. And you can never predict how a brain is going to manifest itself. You have people born and raised in the same house with the same principles, going to the same church, studying the same things with the same loving parents, and all of a sudden one of them is a serial killer. And one of them may go to the Catholic church, and one may become evangelical, and one may be an atheist. And you never know how people are gonna just live and perform. You just can't anticipate that, because the brain is so different. You just can't predict stuff like that. And we don't know, like, as much as you want to focus on chromosomes and say that, okay, you were born a biological male, that's all that matters. No, that's not all that matters, because science considers also the brain manifestation. And it's still a big mystery. There's so much that we don't know about the brain. So I don't want to also completely, shut the door for them. But when it comes to sports, I do believe that there may be, that this is just not, it's not just a thing of not wanting to give you an opportunity, because to, let's say, go to the women's bathroom, for instance, or I want to have a different birth certificate because I wanted to reflect my new chosen, reality, which is now I am a woman. So I know there's specific terms. I'm not an expert on the terms, so I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, the thing is that those things don't affect nobody. If they can marry, if they can have a birth certificate, if they can go into the same bathroom, because the same way people argue that, oh yeah, if you let them go into the bathroom, they're perverts, they're gonna end up abusing people. No, they're not. It hasn't happened. We barely see stuff like that. You know where people are being kids are being abused? In churches. We have almost every single week, if not every single day, almost. In this country, in the USA, we have sexual abuse. We have children being completely abused in churches. But you don't hear nothing about the churches. You don't hear a single Republican saying that we should come up with a bill. I'm going to introduce a resolution so that we can minimize sexual abuse in churches. Have you heard something like that ever? And we have a ton of sexual abuse of minors in churches, but they don't go after that. They go after drag queens because it suits the narrative. This is what you get from the Democrats. This is what you get from the leftist Marxists that are completely sick people that want to brainwash and groom our children. But yeah, you have your pastor at church grooming your children, and you don't want to say anything about that. But that's why I'm saying that there's a real situation here that you want to, of course, keep supporting professionals, organizations, psychology associations, psychiatry associations. Let them do the job and sort out the actual conduct. and the brain phenomenon that we're seeing, because like Neil deGrasse Tyson told Ben Shapiro when he mopped the floor with Ben Shapiro. If you haven't watched that debate, go and watch it. It was, I guess, a conversation, an episode, but it looks like a debate. Check it out between Neil deGrasse Tyson and Ben Shapiro. I don't know, it's been a minute. It's not recent. And Ben was so hell-bent on that, marriage should be between a man and a woman. And, he was so against gay people and trans and all of that. And Neil deGrasse Tyson mopped the floor with him. Like, why are you so opposed to just studying? You love science and you want to talk about biology. Why not talk about the scientific method and observation? You are observing in real time, real behavior, a manifestation of different human beings that behave in a different way. Don't you want to study and learn why? No, because he has a book written in the Bronze Age by illiterate people that thought that in this case the sun was actually going around Earth and that the Earth was the center of the universe, and they believe so many things that now we know were not true. And he still holds, is holding on to that book. Because that book is determining and guiding every single principle and value when it comes to his life. So he couldn't care less about science if it's not going to suit Ben Shapiro's narrative. But, it was a very strong argument by Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, like, why wouldn't you want to learn? Why wouldn't you want to let science, go its course and just try to figure out what's going on with these people? Because what they don't tell you is that most of these people end up taking their lives. A lot of these people, they live very, very difficult, lonely, isolated lives because society is always pushing them away and criticizing them. And some people don't want to give them a job. And then you have, Republicans always trying to take their rights away, and they don't want them to have equal rights. They don't want to have them to be able, be able to marry and get a marriage certificate so they can get some other benefits. It's always a shit show. These people, nobody wants to live like that. If you're going to be suffering and always being rejected, some people do so just because it's not a choice. And that's what a lot of people believe. Republican Party, of course, they believe, like I said, they believe in a book written in the Bronze Age. I'm not a Christian. I used to be a preacher at some point in my life, but that's how I was brought up. That's what I was taught when I was growing up, and I ran with it. For a long time, and for a very long time, I thought I was completely convinced that I was a 100% believer. But eventually, once, like George Carlin would say, once I reached the age of reason, then of course I started to see things in a different way. I started to question different things, and in studying the Bible in a completely different, more objective, more in a kind of an academic, way. I learned so much that the church would never tell me, things that the church would never even allow you to think. They would just, whatever question didn't suit the narrative, they would just shut it down. Hey, we're not one to question. We shouldn't be questioning God. God, He knows everything, and we know nothing, and we should just believe and have faith, and that's it. And you don't question. Of course, yeah. So God gave me this brain with all this reasoning and critical thinking and reasoning capacity, so I can question things and not just believe things at face value. But of course I can't use it, because if I use it, I'm also, I guess, challenging God and doing something that is not good. That doesn't make any sense. But all I'm saying is that it's a hard situation. So to see Gavin Newsom move a little more towards the center so that he can appeal a little bit more to certain Republicans who may be completely disappointed with Donald Trump, and they may say, you know what, this Gavin Newsom guy, first of all, for Republicans, that, most people that are believers, they still have this patriarchy-based mindset, so they still believe that men can do a better job at leading and being more emotionally more stable, even though Donald Trump has completely negated that. Anyway, they may see Gavin Newsom and think, this guy is less radical than Kamala Harris. He's left, he's more towards the center, and he actually doesn't even want to support trans people participating in women's sports. And look at that, he gets along really well on his podcast with Bannon and Charlie Kirk and all these people. They may be more willing to vote for him. So I understand. I'm not sure. I can't tell you he did it because of that, because I don't know. I'm not sure if he held a different position before, or he just hadn't like made it public and just didn't say anything about it. Because if you didn't say anything, now he can take a different position. I'm not sure if they have accused him of flip-flopping. I know, of course, the community, trans people and LGBT communities were super mad about it. But if he wants to win the election, he may be looking this in a different way. To win, you need votes. And right now, unfortunately, and this is why most political candidates, or in this case, Republicans, don't even care about it. Like, the LGBT community and trans community is such a small community when it comes to votes. It's not nothing. And, they can help win certain counties or maybe even a state at some point, because who knows, it may be 1,000 votes, 10,000 votes, who knows, 40,000 votes, depending on the place and if it's what kind of race we're talking about. But probably some politicians may be willing to sacrifice that. So that's going to win me more votes. I'm going to make it then to the presidency. Like, I'm not sure. That may be a way that politicians obviously look at things in terms of how many votes I'm winning or losing by supporting X position or Y position or X group or Y group. All I know is that he's moving a little bit more towards the center when it comes to that. But I do believe that there's a real debate when it comes to that particular issue. Everything else, I don't care about pronouns. If you want to be she or them or they, whatever, I don't care. That doesn't affect anyone. If you go into the bathroom, that doesn't affect anyone, because anyway, you can have, if you have a pervert who wants to abuse and, like completely, just kidnap somebody or abuse a kid, he's going to go into that bathroom regardless of whatever sign you have out there. It doesn't matter if the person can or cannot go into the men's or women bathroom. Because the same way you guys say, which is stupid, Republicans say, oh, do you think if you ban guns, do you think the criminals are going to respect the law? Of course they're not. Now you're pretty much banning the guns for the good people, and criminals are still going to get it illegally. So now we're at a disadvantage. So you think, criminals wouldn't respect gun law, so therefore, we shouldn't even bother. But you think that we should put a rule, a sign on a door that becomes a rule saying you can't come in here if you're a criminal trying to abuse kids. And that sign they're going to respect. It doesn't make sense. It's completely illogical defense. But anyway, all I'm saying is that the fact that you are a Democrat doesn't mean that you support necessarily all positions. And the fact that you're a Republican doesn't mean that you also have to oppose everything coming from the other side. We have to just analyze things for what they are. And we have to find middle ground sometimes. And I believe that this particular topic still has to be middle ground, because I believe that we need way more research when it comes to psychology and the real dangers of allowing this to happen, if any. And I'm not convinced yet. So as you can see, like, people can have different views, even on the left. You may think that I'm a complete you're a Russian agent. Yeah, of course. I would hope that somebody would be paying me to do this. YouTube may pay me. This is a monetized channel. I not long ago passed on this English channel the 1,000 subscriber requirement. So YouTube is sending me like $5 a month right now because of my videos. I don't do a lot on this channel. My main channel is my Spanish channel. And on that channel, I do have like around 45,000 people, and it's very active. And I have some episodes at 200,000, even almost 400,000 views. Some of the top episodes, obviously not all of them, because of course that's my main community and demographic that I try to target when it comes to all the topics and things that are affecting Hispanics and Latinos. But of course, from time to time, I want to do some stuff on this English channel too, which is slowly starting to pick up and grow. But I'm a Russian agent. They're saying when it comes to the chat. No, guys, I'm just a simple person, trying to do my best and trying to share what I think are better things that we should consider, or different positions that I think make no sense, or even helping, when it comes to analyzing certain news and so on. But we'll see what happens with that. I believe that Gavin may end up winning, or maybe Kamala Harris, I would be highly surprised if in 2028, first of all, if we have any elections at all, and they don't completely steal them with the National Guard and with the SAVE Act and with ICE at the polling places and so on. But if we do have a fair and square election, I don't see J.D. Vance. First of all, because a lot of Republicans don't even like J.D. Vance. My oldest brother, he is a freaking 100% MAGA, supporter, a Trump supporter, to the point where he has been on TV. My oldest brother has been on TV, Denver, Telemundo, defending Donald Trump on, gun control or gun rights or something. He's an NRA instructor. So, I'm telling you, he's full MAGA. And even him at some point was telling me, like, J.D. Vance doesn't have the support. Like, little to no people like him within the Republican Party. That's what he would tell me. And I have heard the same thing from a bunch of people. But that's because we still have Donald Trump. Once Donald Trump is completely out of the picture, that is 100% official that he's not running, you're going to see people flipping on a dime. They're going to start taking sides right away. And I don't think Marco Rubio is, I don't know, I'm not a Republican. I may be totally wrong when it comes to that. But I believe J.D. Vance has, the people that put him there, this guy made it to the Senate. And then within 2 years, he was on the vice presidency, presidential and vice president ballot. Within 2 years of being a senator, pretty much doing nothing. What can you tell me that J.D. Vance was able to achieve? What great law, what great results for the country? Nothing. He was put there because he has big money behind him. Maybe they think he may be a great, likable candidate because he can be a very great, how you pronounce it in English? Orator? He's great at public speaking. He does great at that. I have to give him that. I do believe that he did a little bit better than Tim Walz during the debate. And I believe that he actually saved Donald Trump, who actually did awful against Kamala Harris. He killed it just because he wasn't almost dying like Biden on the first debate. So the fact that he was just alive and able to answer questions and seem a little bit more energetic, that gave Donald Trump the win, even though he answered no question during the Biden debate in 2024. But as soon as he met Kamala Harris, even though Kamala Harris didn't do good the first 10 minutes because she was very nervous and you could tell her she was a little bit shaky, her voice. But eventually, once she got comfortable, she killed it. Even Joe Rogan said that on his show, that Kamala Harris did great, that she seemed prepared. She seemed, that she was working with a team. Donald Trump seemed unprepared, and that it showed that he wasn't working with a team. So even Joe Rogan said that about Donald Trump's debate. So he did really poorly and badly. I thought we were in a great position at that point, even though the Democrats screwed up by not doing a primary, and Biden shouldn't have even run in the first place, ran in the first place. But he said he was going to run, and we lost a lot of time that Kamala Harris could have been campaigning and trying to prepare herself even better. But it was kind of like a last minute thing. But then, even once they were at that bad spot that Donald Trump had that disastrous debate against Kamala Harris, I was like, I think I feel good about our chances. But then Tim Walz, he wanted to be so friendly. He I guess he didn't want to seem that he was too desperate to attack J.D. Vance when J.D. Vance was smiling and being very courteous. And he was all smiles and I don't know, just good attitude. And yeah, we can work together. And Tim Walz, yes, we can work together. He missed a lot of opportunities to just challenge J.D. Vance on all the positions and all the awful things that they had done and with migrants and things that they had said. And even the worst, the awful performance of that first administration, and then the insurrection. There was so much to pile, on. And he was so friendly that he just allowed J.D. Vance to kind of flourish. And J.D. Vance was very skilled at just using words to sound very nice and very reasonable. And if you don't know the truth and you just watch that debate, all of a sudden J.D. Vance looked like a great candidate. He's a great American, so willing to be inclusive. And he would definitely support Democrats being treated equally and fairly and respect their constitutional rights. That's not what's going to happen if he were to win. A lot of people even believe that Gavin Newsom just said it a day or two ago. He was J.D. Vance scares me even more than Marco Rubio. There's something about J.D. Vance that he said he's a scary guy. Scary guy just because, I believe that he would have the potential to be even worse than Donald Trump. But we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, guys, I just want to do this video to share a couple of those thoughts, and especially that video of Mark Kelly that I played at the beginning of this show. I wanted to share a video, but I did awful. I thought I had the video in English. I didn't. I had translated, and apparently I got rid of the English original one, or maybe I don't know where it is right now, so I couldn't find it live. And then I also wanted to cover a little bit of this Brad Raffensperger and Donald Trump call about Donald Trump just demanding they find 11,700 and 80 votes that didn't exist and so on. So anyway, it's been a lot happening these days, but I'll promise that I'll be back soon with more news. Probably tomorrow we'll do a follow-up because there's so much going on. But anyway, please, if you're here for the first time, leave a like. Thank you for all of you. 422 comments. Thank you so much. But let me give you a round of applause. Thank you so much for all the comments and participating, even though probably 80% are Trump followers insulting me. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. I promise I'll read the comments later on, and I'll try to respond. Let me read at least maybe maybe 5 comments, because this would take me forever to try to read them all. But anyway, Leo, thank you for being here. Saludos. Jimmy Meyer said because it's a creepy religion, the Church of Jesse Waters, and the Latter-day Trumps. That's funny. Let me see here. Trump is a rhino. God. Bilton says bald. Yeah. Yes, I'm bald. I guess you're just mad, just hurt because I'm criticizing Donald Trump. Yeah. The only thing you can do is come up with some insult. Okay, so who else we have here that we can, let me see. Rose Light Cafe says, Trump is awesome. Yeah, breaking the law, committing crimes, abusing women, protecting pedophiles. He's doing a great job when it comes to that, making money for himself and his family. Top tier, great performer when it comes to that. Lowering inflation, not so much. Lowering unemployment, not so much. Creating jobs, not so much. Lowering grocery prices, not so much. Lowering electricity by 50%, like he promised in 6 months. It's been a year and a half, and it's actually like 20% higher by now in some places. And it's anywhere from like 10% to 20% higher right now than when Biden left office. So yeah, launching wars after he's great at launching wars after he said he was going to be the no wars, anti-war, president. Yeah, of course, he's great. Yeah. He said, what's your point? My God, you're talking circles, bro. Yeah, so yeah, just go, listen to one of Trump's speeches and tell me how great he is and how he doesn't speak in circles or whatever. You're not here because you want to listen to anything that I have to say not speaking in circles. You're here because you're mad because I'm criticizing Donald Trump and you wanted to say something to try to hurt me. Yeah, okay, congratulations, I guess. Let me see here. What else? He said, who are you working for? I wish I was working for somebody. I wish I was working. This is the funny thing about Trump supporters. Anytime you do any show, which is free to do on YouTube, you just have to connect to YouTube the same way that he is connecting to YouTube and going into my video and leaving a comment. I'm just clicking here a button that says go live, right? That's all I'm doing. And you're here and you're talking to me and now I'm talking to you. But for some reason, I guess you're doing it free, right? You're doing it for free. You don't work for anyone, just going around combating people because they don't hold your same views. But I have to be working for somebody. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. If it's against Trump, you have to be working for somebody. I guess maybe I get where you're coming from, right? Because you guys remember like a year ago when they found out, the FBI found out like a year ago, something like that, that Russia was actually paying influencers here in the United States to actually promote narratives in favor of Donald Trump. We have who was it? Like Dave Rubin, and who else was there? It was a bunch of people of like big influencers, and they were taking, like tens of thousands of dollars to promote, I guess, Russian Trump favoring propaganda. And but somebody has to be paying me, because there's no way I'm doing this without somebody paying me to promote some, I guess, leftist, Marxist, communist propaganda. Of course, you make a lot of sense, bro. It's some high level intelligence right there. I'm sorry, I'm not that smart. Let's see here. Underboss is here. Fun fact: Latinas are like sunshine in the mornings. They brighten up the world. They do. As you restore the California Republic, vote red all across Cali. Yeah, good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. Again, we have G Dubia still here. Yeah, somebody's paying me. Like, yeah, I'm a bald guy, whatever. But yeah, she's still here. She or he? He's still here. Who knows? He may be maybe whatever. You never know who you're talking to when it comes to the internet. Cool Cat says, we cannot afford to have illegal aliens here. Yeah, let's start with Melania Trump. I agree. Let's start with Melania. What do you think about that? Let's start with Melania. Let's check Elon Musk. You want to check? You may want to start there. Yeah. And let me tell you this, Cool Cat 3032. Probably you're not even here anymore. But anyway, if you really care about the law, you wouldn't vote for President Trump. We wouldn't have a convicted felon in the White House. So, spare us the bullshit that you care about the Constitution or a federal law and when it comes to immigration law, because if you care about the law in general, you wouldn't support a sexual abuser who has been a fraudster, who has been convicted of, his business was found, guilty in 2023 of criminal tax evasion. 2023, Trump Organization, 14 counts of criminal tax evasion. So again, spare us the bullshit, okay? You try with something better, guys. If I was a MAGA supporter, I would be trying to say different things, but I wouldn't pretend at all that I care about the rule of law, because you have a fucking convicted felon in the White House, bro. So don't even try, man. You're just making a fool out of yourself. With absolutely zero consistency, making no sense at all. Yeah, I don't want people illegals here. Yeah, I just want a convicted felon in the White House. Yeah, because he's white. So as long as he's white and he was born here in the States, I couldn't care less. So this is not about the law. This is not about being legal or not legal. This is about being white. So just, say it as it is, and you'll feel better. And even though it would sound awful, you would sound less dumb and uneducated and less unreasonable than saying what you're saying right now, which is just absolutely stupid. So what else do we have here? Who else is doing? Dude, again, G is like, dude. Okay. What else? United States can no longer afford to have illegal aliens. That was the same one. I guess this has to be a bot. It's just posting the same comment all over again. You know what, Cool Cat? I'm gonna give you a round of applause, because look at this. You're not only capable of realizing that your comment makes no sense because you're talking about legal stuff when you're supporting a convicted felon, number one, and number two, you're also, I don't know, you don't have common sense at all, because the more you post comments on my show, that means that YouTube is gonna show my episode, my live stream, to more people, because it's saying, you know what, Cool Cat is on fire. He's so happy. He's commenting a lot. So the algorithm is actually gonna pretty much reward me thanks to you. So thanks to all the Trump supporters they just can't hold back. And that's the difference. Since I'm intelligent, actually, okay, and I'm not a dumb person that will follow a convicted felon for no reason, who happens to also be a bigot, a racist, a misogynist, and convicted felon, an insurrectionist, twice declared an insurrectionist by 2 courts in Colorado, twice impeached. Man, I'm telling you, sexual abuser, how you call it, defamator, defaming person, and an aggressor, an adulterer who has cheated on all his wives, bad father. You can, I'm telling you, you name it. The list is long and it's endless, and you're following that guy. So anyway, I wouldn't do that ever because I'm a smart person. But the thing is that since I'm a smart person too, way higher IQ than all of you guys criticizing me here that while you're supporting Donald Trump, a pedophile who has said that he would date a 10-year-old in 10 years because he wanted everyone to know that he was sexually attracted to a 10-year-old that he wanted to date later in 10 years. The same guy who said that he would date his daughter and that recently said that he wanted a threesome with his own kids. Yeah, that's the guy you follow. And I believe it's last study that I saw that was conducted by myself. That study established that to follow Donald Trump, you have to be at least maybe 40 IQ points or lower. There's no way that anyone following Donald Trump has more than 40 IQ points. But since I'm definitely way smarter than you guys, I don't support any Republican YouTube channel. I don't care what conspiracy bullshit theory they may be sharing. I'm never even stopping to say hi because I know the moment I do, first of all, now YouTube is going to start flooding my YouTube. It's going to start flooding it with more similar shows to that one. And I don't want to see all these shows. So I never engage or interact with these shows. That's so basic that even a kid, a 7-year-old kid these days knows about algorithms and how they work, right? So I'm not going to do that. And not only YouTube is just going to mess up what I want to show, find and see and watch on YouTube. So my algorithm is trained for what I'm looking for and what I want to see. But then on top of that, YouTube is also going to tell other people that the show that I stopped to comment, on Republican, I don't know if I go to watch at this point, what's his name? I don't know. Let's say somebody like I forgot his name. Benny something, whatever. I forgot his last name. Benny. It's a super popular podcaster. Let's say Dan Bongino, he's back, with his podcast or so. If I go and I say, you know what, I hate Dan Bongino, he's such a liar, I'm going to leave 50 comments. Now I'm telling YouTube, hey, find people like me, Democrats like me, and show them Dan Bongino's show. Because if I like it, probably all the people that watch what I watch, mostly Democrats, are going to love this show because I'm engaging with this show consistently, and even every 5 seconds I'm posting a comment. So now I would be doing free marketing, literally free digital marketing, social media marketing for Dan Bongino. I would be working for free if I engage with this show. So I'm not that stupid. So congratulations by thinking that somehow you're hurting my show by commenting 50 times and posting all these things, even if insults. You're actually helping me. And it doesn't bother me at all. That's why I don't close the chat. I'm not sure if you guys know, but when you do a live stream, YouTube gives me the power to determine who can comment. And I can have only people that I approve. If I wanted to approve people manually, I can have only people that are subscribed to my channel for over, 5 hours, 10 hours. So that way, if I do it that way, somebody just comes and, just tries to subscribe to leave a comment is going to have to wait, a long time to be able to comment. If I do it like that, I can have it to be only members. So you would have to buy a membership to be able to comment on the live chat. But I don't care because I know I'm a digital digital marketeer. I have an advertising agency that I've been running for over 20 years. This is my specialty. I deal with communications. I've been a journalist. I understand communications at a very deep level, and I also understand human psychology really well. So that's why I'm like, yeah, you guys are going to come here try to troll me, not knowing that you're working for me free. And I love it. So again, a round of applause for all the MAGA people right now here in the chat, insulting and, just being all the, all professional keyboard warriors. And helping my channel somehow reach more people and grow. And that would mean that people would listen to stuff by coming to my channel. Even if you guys think, oh yeah, if they're Republicans and they're MAGA like me, they're not going to listen to whatever this guy has to say. Don't count on that because I'm always presenting facts. and I'm very good at reasoning and debating. And I could have like 10 of you trying to debate me at once, and you guys wouldn't stand a chance. So that's all I'm going to say right now. So yeah, bringing people here, Republicans like you, would be amazing, because I'm pretty sure I would be able to reach many of them with reality, because it's reality that they're not going to get from Jesse Waters. They're not going to get from Sean Hannity. You know, they're never going to listen to this stuff at Newsmax or OAN or any other whatever you listen to, whatever crap you listen to these days. Here you're going to actually hear, you're going to listen to different things that are grounded on facts. So anyway, thank you so much, Cool Cat. Keep posting. You're doing a great job. You know what? I'm going to declare you the employee of the day. You know, hey guys, a round of applause again for a Cool Cat. Employee of the day. Amazing, amazing. This is about citizenship. Jimmy, thank you. Says Puerto Ricans are citizens. You don't fuck. That wasn't directed at me. That was somebody else that was questioning. Of course, we're citizens since like 1916 or so, 17. It's been automatic. You know, you don't have to do anything. You're born in Puerto Rico. You don't even have to be born in the mainland. You're born in Puerto Rico. You're a citizen already. Not only I'm Puerto Rican, which makes me a citizen right away. I'm a Puerto Rican who was born in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So kind of a, Puerto Rican with a double citizenship, if you want to count it that way, because I'm Puerto Rican, because I'm a citizen because Puerto Ricans are citizens, and I'm a Puerto Rican who was actually born here in the mainland, which, based on the Supreme Court's ruling just a couple of, 3 weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that if you're born here, as much as Republicans want to cry about it, especially the MAGA small faction, Donald Trump, and claim that unless your parents were citizens, and my parents were citizens, so I was fine anyway. But anyway, they're claiming that you shouldn't be a citizen because of birth tourism, or because if your parents are not both citizens, or maybe even one of them at least a citizen. But anyway, that's what you want to say. I don't care. Like the Supreme Court just ruled that regardless if you're Puerto Rican or not, if you're born in the USA, which I was, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then you are a citizen. So if you don't like it, that's too bad. Then that's what they say. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. You have to take it up, with the Supreme Court. Go and, I don't know, I guess, do you want to protest? Hop on a plane, go in front of the Supreme Court. I don't know, do like a hunger strike. Go on do a hunger strike, and don't eat for 10 days straight because you want to make a statement so that the judges somehow listen to your whiny, little ass here on YouTube. Instead of doing it here on YouTube, go and, try to talk to Congress, talk to the Supreme Court to see if you can actually get something passed that Donald Trump hasn't been able to get passed and that he couldn't do by executive order. Trying to be an autocrat, bypassing Congress and somehow combating, and sidestepping the Constitution. Completely, absolutely pathetic. Anthony says states' rights were abolished when Lincoln invaded the South and freed the Negroes. Biggest mistake after the 15th and 19th Amendments. Okay, watch crooked fake news, CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC Nation News. They're all false news. Yeah, I guess Truth Social. We should all tune in to Truth Social. If we really want the truth, hey, the name is Truth Social. It has to be true if the name is Truth Social, right? There's no way that we're going to find fake news on Truth Social, right? Impossible, man. We should all listen to Cool Cat. He's just right on point. Nunya Business says here, Heritage Foundation, the authors of Project 2025, did their own research and found that there was barely voter fraud. This is the best comment that I've probably seen so far based on some grounded data, real data. It's real. So thank you so much. I'm tired of Trump's lies, and I'm tired of his loyalists licking his butt. Yes, I'm tired too, believe me. This is why I'm here, because this is not even my main preference, just because, I could definitely hold my own in English, but in Spanish, I don't even have to think of it. I just say what I want to say. In English, sometimes I struggle finding a word here and there, or I may say the thing, thing backwards here and there, even though I know I do better than a bunch. But yeah, I still want to reach people that I know wouldn't follow my Spanish channel. So I'm like, I'm going to do this in English too, just because I can. Just because all these people are criticizing me in the chat, wouldn't be able to do a chat, and probably most of them, especially if they're MAGA, I can assure you, they speak only one language. 99% of MAGA, guaranteed, if they were to do a study, 99, if not 99.9%, speak only one language. There's no way, that you could have people doing more than two languages and voting for Donald Trump. I think it would be asking too much. That would be probably, if anything, like a miracle if you find somebody like that. But anyway, Riqueza Luis says, "Oh, you liar." Okay, yeah. Why? Just because you say so? Yeah, and I guess the convicted felon, he's always saying the truth. He's the truthful guy, the guy who has was found liable of fraud, of sexual abuse, of defamation, aggression, and twice impeached and twice declared an insurrectionist. Yeah, that's your truthful guy. Sure, makes total sense. What do I have here? Let me see. You need to learn how to deal with bots. Probably, Jimmy. I don't have that many bots in my Spanish channel, but here I'm pretty sure I have quite a few. And I could ban, I think I was, I should be able to ban very easily here right now, Cool Cat, but I don't care. Like I said, the more comments, it helps. City 0017 says, Democrats know about the fraud. They benefit from it. Yeah, of course, it's too bad that they can't prove it in court. Even, your guy said today, John Solomon, who is working with Donald Trump right now, declassifying documents so that Donald Trump can, could give his speech on Thursday. And that guy told MS Now, I haven't seen, any evidence. There's zero evidence that I have seen that there was any fraud in 2020, 22, or 24. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump wasn't happy about that. Anyway, guys, like I said, it's 536 comments. Probably 500 of them belong to Cool Cat. Probably. I'm not gonna stay to read more because I have to leave. I'm gonna wrap it up right now. Anyway, if you're here, you made it this far, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you can, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Okay, so take care, and thank you for joining me. Bye bye.